8. Moving on to New Zealand, just one change for them. It continues to be a back three of Holmes, Tui and Woodman. Fitzpatrick and Flula continue in the centres, with Ruahei Demant, the co-captain of the Black Ferns, wearing 10, and Kendra Coxedge, the most capped Black Fern, who will play her very last game today. Finally in the forwards, it's Love, Ponsonby and Rule, Roos, Bremner and then Harini and McMenamin. McMenamin is the one change. She's the only player who comes in at this point to play in the World Cup final. There is Scottish representation in the final today. Holly Davidson is the referee, a huge achievement for her off the back of her refereeing the Sevens World Cup final just 2 months ago. A real star on the rise. Right then, here we go on BBC Radio 5 Live, the start of the Women's Rugby World Cup final. England against New Zealand. It's New Zealand who'll kick us off, playing from right to left in this first half. Ball into the air, and it's gathered on this near side by Lydia Thompson. Calmly placed down, and England currently playing between their 10 and the 22. Amy Cockayne, who of course spent many of her younger years here in New Zealand. Her father an RAF officer. She could have played for New Zealand. She went for a trial with the Black Ferns. As the ball goes down the field, it's gathered by Ruahei Demant. The fullback for the Black Ferns, Renee Holmes, runs forward inside of the Black Ferns half between the 10 and the 22. 15 metres out from the near side. England have turned over the ball on the floor. Lucy Packer gives it to Marley Packer. Not related, the two of them, don't get confused. And it is the scrum half who then feeds the captain, Sarah Hunter. She straightens her run, realising there are no options outside her. Harrison has a little kick over the top. It bounces over the head of Holmes. Holmes is going to be under pressure now to clear this ball. Abby Dow's up in her face. There's a number of Red Roses hunting her down. It's Emily Scarrett eventually with the tackle, and the Black Ferns inside of their 22. We've played over a minute now of the Rugby World Cup final. It's been breathless. No one's made a mistake yet, but it's the Black Ferns who are under pressure inside of their own half. They're nearly up to their own 22-metre line, and Kendra Coxedge is appealing for the ball. It's Dement who gets it out wide, and uncharacteristic there from Teresa Fitzpatrick. She slightly fumbled with the ball, had to go down to her knees, and England, they're pressing so hard at the moment at the breakdown. Bremner. 2 Bremners in this lineup for the Black Ferns, Chelsea and Alana. Chelsea, the older sister, playing in the second row. Her younger sister Alana in the back row today. What a moment for their family as the ball is eventually kicked forward by the Black Ferns. Goes out of play on the near side. It's going to be an England line out inside of the New Zealand half between the 10 and the 22. Exactly how England would like it.
Yeah, England will be loving this, and they've taken it really quickly and off the top.
Down the line it goes, out towards Scarrett. She's got a nice looping run from Aitchison, out to Dow. Dow one-on-one with Holmes, big handoff. Dow still going back inside to Thompson, who somehow holds on to the ball round her ankles. Wonderful play there by the Worcester wing. England 7 metres out from the try line in the World Cup final. Hunter takes it. Still 6 metres to go to the line, gathered by Cockayne. The Harlequins hooker places it back. Waiting calmly is Marley Packer. England have also got a penalty now. Alex Matthews, what a tournament she has had. Standout player for England, comes towards Scarrett. Kildunn is there, still Kildunn! Kildunn opens the scoring in the Rugby World Cup final for England. It looked too easy. The Black Ferns haven't woken up yet. It's New Zealand 0, England 5.
What a fantastic start. We've talked a lot about this England pack and their driven line-outs. They get a penalty, they get the line out, they go quickly. It's a beautiful ball off the top. They get it all the way out wide to the likes of Dow, manage to keep it alive, and then it comes all the way back across to Kildunn on the other wing. This is what we've wanted to see all tournament. Me and Katie have been talking about it. This England team is more than a pack. Pack provides fantastic platform, and the attack and the backs. What a finish.
Well, we're just waiting for Emily Scarrett to line up a conversion. I know someone's going to be very happy back in studio. Katie Daly-McLean?
Yes, indeed. I mean, look at what the ability these backs have. Quick ball, but it all comes from the tempo, from the line-up from Amy Cockayne. Ball in, ball out, and we're seeing Holly Aitchison, Abby Dow down the wing. This backline are so dangerous. All we've talked about is New Zealand's backline, but with Emily Scarrett, who's going to be pulling the strings out there today, honestly, I think we could see so much more from them as well.
Well, Emily Scarrett just lining up the conversion on the near side. She's got a really difficult angle to turn that one in. She has done fantastically. That one just a couple of metres out from the near side touch. And Emily Scarrett She's had a pretty good tournament so far. It's taken her a while to get used to the ball, but when someone's slotting one from that far out, they turn up in the big occasion.
Exactly that. Emily Scarrett's a big game player. She's probably cruised a little bit through the World Cup so far for her incredibly high standards, but in a big game there's no one you want more to have the ball in their hands, and especially not when taking a kick.
Good morning to everyone on BBC Radio 5 Live. Hope you're having a good breakfast, or maybe you've been up for a little bit. It is England 7, New Zealand 0 in the Women's Rugby World Cup final. We're coming to you live from Auckland as the ball is cleared from the restart by England on the far side of the field. And this will be the first attacking platform for the Black Ferns. It's between the 10 and the 22 inside of England territory. And it'll be important for the Black Ferns to fire a shot.
Absolutely, they need to respond and respond quickly. They are a very good side when they have gone behind, coming back. We've seen them do this countless times before, so they need to take their opportunities when they're on.
And England really pressured that line-up from the Black Ferns. They disrupted it. They didn't get the clean ball they would like as they do a big looping pass out to Holmes. Brilliantly read by England, who go flying up into the face of the black shirts. Coxedge manages to push it down the line. Coxedge, a woman who's played now in her third Rugby World Cup final, gets it out towards this near side. Sarah Harini, who is quite a legend of women's rugby. We've got advantage now to the Black Ferns. Confusion at the breakdown, and they have an opportunity now going forward inside of England territory. Coxedge again can't get hold of the ball, and the penalty comes. A big moment here for the Black Ferns. Normally they always go for the corner, always. But this is a World Cup final. Big decisions to make.
Yeah, big decision. I'm not sure they've got the kick, though. Oh, there we go. The commentators curse, they've gone for the kick. Doesn't mean she's definitely got it, but they've got the confidence to go for it, because this is a team as well. They like to have the ball kicked back to them. So even if they miss this, they're going to be really happy to receive it back, and they do love a counter-attack.
Well, Renee Holmes is playing fullback for the Black Ferns. She's been specifically selected both the semi-final and this match, the final, because of her kicking prowess. She's done a huge amount of sessions with Dan Carter, who is, of course, the former All Black fly half. He's been in and out of camp, helping out so many of the players with their kicking duties, and she's really credited his advice for helping her, about, particularly around her mindset. And wow, what a mindset you're going to need now. So this is a Black Ferns penalty just inside of the England 10 metre, and it's about 20 metres out from this near side. It's a reasonably straight kick for Renee Holmes, but it will be on the edges of how far and how many metres she can actually get out of the ball. She looks down. She needs this to be within her range. Little shuffle forward, right boot of Holmes. She's got a little bit of a hoof on it, and she's not got it. So Emily Scarrett calmly puts it down on the floor. The score remains England 7, New Zealand 0.
And a big moment, because for me, I wasn't confident that was within her range. Her kicking, she is in there for that, but from an England perspective, pretty happy, and they've put it really deep back down into the New Zealand half.
And it's Holmes who gathers, so the Black Ferns trying to approach the halfway line. Big tackle coming in from Bristol, props Sarah Byrne. Sarah Byrne, who was born in Surrey. Been through a few clubs, but now quite settled in the West Country. Massive contest going on at the breakdown. England are deep in there, being warned by our referee, Holly Davidson, about what she's doing. Harini passes it out towards Fitzpatrick, who runs down the near side, trying to make space for Portia Woodman, who has to go in the end and clear out the ruck. Dement once again finds Bremner. Only made a debut in 2021, and that's a real story of this Black Ferns lineup. So many of them only made their debuts in the last year. It's a loose ball. Someone needs to put a name on it. It's out on the far side. It's been hacked out by New Zealand. Not quite clear thinking. And so many times when we talk about the Black Ferns, Kat, we talk about they get the rub of the green, they get the bounce of the ball. That's not happening yet.
No, it hasn't for them for the last year. I'd say normally any bounce and it goes their way, but there was a huge roar from the crowd though when it went wide to Ruby Tui there.
England then, they had 100% success with their set piece in the semi-final, and so far they have not faltered yet in the final. England 7, New Zealand 0. We've got 8 minutes on the clock. Holmes just teaming up with Woodman on this near side. Woodman with a sniff of space. The first tackle is missed. It's Ellie Kildunn who comes out there trying to pump her into touch. Doesn't get there. Scarrett has to go in and gather the ball, and the Black Ferns are straight over the top to slow it down. Harrison with the kick down, and there's no one at home for the Black Ferns. Holmes is going to have to track back 20 metres to gather the ball. Abby Dow is hunting her down like a lioness in the savannah. Then she gets her woman, drags her down to the turf. and it's Fitzpatrick and Flula who all of a sudden go, how have we ended up back here? That's the kind of pressure that England want to put on this Blackfern side, and that was all made by fly half Zoe Harrison. Harini, middle of the park, still inside of the New Zealand half, and Coxsedge goes out and gather. As we said, this is Coxsedge's final game for the Black Ferns. A lot of people think maybe her time has been up in New Zealand. She's lucky to be here. A lot of youngsters nipping at her heels, none less than Ariana Baylor, who is on the bench today for them. Kicked through by New Zealand, gathered by Harrison, who sends it straight back. Is she going to get the bounce of the ball? Yes, she is. It's Ruahei Dement out there, who's being pinned back inside of her 22. And she's taken down by 2 white shirts in the end. But New Zealand, they cannot get territory. They're stuck inside of the 22. So far, England are suffocating the Black Ferns. So many times, England have been on the wrong side of this match. It's still very early on as we see the footwork coming through now by Portia Woodman, who's breaking down the middle of the park. Kildunn gives it now to Harini. Kildunn is trying to drag Harini down to the ground. It's inside of England territory. That would have been a tense moment if you're an England fan. They made a good 50 metres there, the Black Ferns, and it's now McMenamin, the woman who missed out on the semi-final. It's Lieni Michaeli Tu'u, who got a thumb injury, misses out. Now Teresa Fitzpatrick goes forward. Penalty to England. New Zealand off their feet, and all of a sudden England breathe and the crowd boo.
I don't understand what New Zealand are playing at in their own 22. Just kick it. 3 opportunities they had to kick and clear their lines. They just haven't. And I understand they can run some great tries outside of it. Portia Woodman then did just make a break from it, but you've got to relieve some pressure because the England defence is really up in their face, and I'm surprised in the experience of this back 3 that they're not putting boot to ball.
Well, England calmly do exactly that. They kick the ball out of play, get a line out. Set piece has been pretty good for them throughout this World Cup, don't forget it. And they'll be looking to use this as much as possible. They keep going to the back. It's such a difficult throw for Amy Cockayne. She has such strong arrows as it now goes to Kildunn. England using their backs, places it back. You'll hear England talk a lot about collision craft, and you can see it coming through when they take the ball into contact. They go down, they put the long pass back. It's being pressured now by the Black Ferns on the floor. It's another penalty to England. The collision craft is working, and that penalty, if England want it, is within Scarrett's range.
Definitely, she can take this one from here, but New Zealand getting sloppy at the breakdown. They've come in at the side, they were off, and the previous one they were off their feet. They have to be really careful around that, because that is one area where England are so well drilled and so well disciplined around the breakdown.
Well, England are feeling confident. They lead here 7-0 in the Women's Rugby World Cup final. They're feeling so confident, they're not thinking about penalties right now. They've kicked for the corner, they're 10 metres out. We know what's coming. If you don't know what's coming, here we go. Goes long to Abby Ward, and the arrow shape of forwards that are driving towards the Black Ferns line is formed. One of the strongest, most powerful weapons in women's rugby is on the move. It's edging slowly and it's going. It's not quick. It's like watching a tortoise trying to win a race, but it's winning and it's still going. And it's Amy Cockayne that goes over. England have scored 2 tries in the World Cup final. 12 minutes on the clock. Trademark move by England. 12-0.
And what I love about it is the previous 2 lineouts have been right to the back, or they've been off the top, they've been very quick. New Zealand might be thinking that England have changed their game plan. So actually they might have held off that just slightly too long. England got really well organised. They don't panic like other teams. When they get told use it once by the referee, they try and fling it out. They were confident they'd re-get that move, get it moving. And Amy Cockayne times that so beautifully off the back of it. She spots it, knows she can get it, gets low, very well timed.
Well, we said about the glory of that first try with Kildunn going in the corner, but a move we know very well from this World Cup. Your thoughts, Katie Daly-McLean?
Yeah, I think Kat covered it really well. What I think makes England so dangerous is how well they look after the ball. So yes, referees ask them to use it, or as telling them that they've used it once. But because Amy Cocaine is so nicely tucked in the back of the ball, that ball can be played at any point. It just gives England the confidence just to hold it in a little bit longer, make sure that the ball is moving, and then it's a really, really easy finish. And like we've talked about throughout the whole of this tournament, haven't we? It's been so dominant for England. It's such a form of confidence that they know they can go to this driving line out.
Well, it is Portia Woodman who's just been sent back by Holly Davidson, who is just trying to charge down Emily Scarrett's kick, and Holly Davidson is holding back the whole of the Black Ferns right now. Emily Scarrett was actually caught out with that in one of the warm-up matches of the World Cup, so I think she's very well aware that people do try and rush her, but she's got that one. She's 2 from 2 from the boot. England need 14-0 in the World Cup final.
What a dream start for them, and this is as England fans, supporters, they would have wanted to see from their team, to come out with confidence. They've not been fazed at all by a sold-out crowd. They've just focused on themselves, and at the minute they are being very clinical.
Right then, the Black Ferns with the restart. They still haven't even really had an attack yet in the England 22 as the ball goes long. It goes through the legs of Sarah Hunter. It's all backwards though. Charged down though by the Black Ferns. It's going to have to be Lucy Packer who gathers, who has risen to the occasion so far in this World Cup final. Still only 22 years old, Lucy Packer. She actually played sevens for Wales before deciding to commit to England as New Zealand managed to steal a loose ball. It was a fly-away pass, and Holly Davidson has to apologise, our referee, that she was in the way. And we get a scrum. We haven't had a scrum yet. We're 15 minutes in, Kat.
I love it. It's the dream game. But that just shows the skill level here. No drop balls at all. Both teams have been attacking. That's incredible to be 15 minutes in and not have had one. On screen, we've just seen a replay of Alex Matthews, of how strong she is, just bursting through tackles. She's had a fantastic tournament.
Yeah, worth saying, Alex Matthews, she's really been through the ringer in the last few years. She was a committed sevens player for so long for England, and when COVID hit and the programme was disbanded, she was homeless. She was actually living in her camper van because of what happened with the lack of funding, and of course they crowdfunded a lot of the Team GB players so they could go to Tokyo, and off the back of that, here she is now playing in the 15s World Cup final like she's never been away from 15s as Ruby Tui runs it through the guts of the park. Flula, can they use the overlap on the outside? They're trying to give Woodman space. Kildunn reads it reasonably well, but there's support behind her by Dement. It's taking at least 3 England players to make sure they control Woodman whenever she's got her hands on the ball. Through the middle of the park, this is the best rugby we've seen so far from the Black Ferns. 15 metres out from the England line. The English defence really has to rearrange here. They get the long pass out to the far side. Here comes Ruby Tui. Abby Dow hunting her down, manages to come back. The tackle eventually made by Matthews. Still 15 metres for the Black Ferns to go as McMenamin's taken down by their opposite number in Hunter. Still, it's now Ruse for the Black Ferns. 6 metres to travel. Coxedge appealing to our referee that she wants more. Bremner. So far, this white wall of England shirts is holding. They lead 14-0 in the World Cup final, but this is the first real pressure they've had. They've turned over the ball, comes back to Aitchison. She sends it down the park. She's got the bounce. It's going to come out of play on the near side. That is classy stuff, but we are going to have a review because there is a New Zealand player down injured just on the near side. I think it might be Portia Woodman.
I did wonder as well. I thought there was a bit of a hand to the ball to stop the attack from Scarrett, so I thought maybe ref would be looking back at that and maybe she is now on the TMO. But if it is Portia Woodman, they're going to be extremely worried about that, because what an impact she's had so far on this game.
Well, we are just listening in to see what Holly Davidson's going to do. She is going to go and have a look on the big screen. And this is a really sad thing to see, because Portia Woodman has been such a star of this Black Ferns side. She's a World Cup winner at sevens. She's won an Olympic gold medal at sevens. And it looks like this is the end of her World Cup final, because they brought the cart on and they're just doing the replays at the moment. And when Woodman goes down, it's Lydia Thompson who comes in with the tackle.
It's the Scarrett, it's the hand from Scarrett that they're looking at. I think she puts a hand out to stop the pass. One hand.
Head on head. She's coming across at speed. It's a reckless action. I'm seeing no mitigation. Are you seeing the same thing? So it's a red card to 14.
Okay, a huge moment in this Rugby World Cup final. England are going to be given a red card. It's going to go to the Worcester wing, Lydia Thompson. Head-on-head contact. Portia Woodman is still down on the floor at the moment. And if England are going to do this now, they might be 14-0 up, but they're going to have to do it the hard way. Lydia Thompson still hasn't quite realised yet that she's gone. She realises now, and Kat, I know this is quite hard for you, as much as we're not in any way going to discuss whether that is or isn't a red card, because it is.
Yeah,
she's a good friend of yours.
Yeah, Lydia's a really good friend, and you know, as soon as I realised the number and what was going on, you know, I am heartbroken for her. But you have to protect the players. It's awful seeing Portia Woodman on the floor and injured. I'm somebody who retired because of having too many concussions, so I'm very adamant about safety within the game. But yeah, that it hurts. You know, I was Lydia's bridesmaid. You're close to these people. You spend a lot of time with them, and she's such a wonderful, lovely person, and her only thoughts are going to be, I hope Portia's okay. I genuinely believe that's what Lydia will be thinking.
Well, the good news is that Portia Woodman has actually sat up completely of her own accord. She is going to go off the field of play on the cart, but they don't need the stretcher. She's not needed oxygen. They've just checked her out. So it does look like that's going to be the end of her Rugby World Cup. We're just waiting for confirmation of who is going to come on to the field. She's talking away. She of course has tears in her eyes, Portia Woodman. She broke the try scoring record. She took Sue Day's record of the most tries ever scored at a Rugby World Cup here. She's a special woman, and it is such a shame that someone who is so sparkling, Katie Daly-McLean, is not going to play any further part in this final.
It really is, but I mean, the most pleasing thing is that obviously Portia's up. Obviously she looked like she was out cold there, so it's the fact that she's up and she's sitting is I suppose the most important thing. But yeah, I mean, Lydia Thompson and Portia Woodman had such a battle in 2017, so it's just a shame for the game that we're not going to get to see that. But you know, New Zealand have got a good replacement in the young 18-year-old who's just come on as well.
Yep, they're making the changes that are coming on. Just confirming, I thought they'd brought in Aisha Letiayinga. I think it is her who's come onto the field. She's a Hurricanes player, winning her 21st cap in this Rugby World Cup final. And from that penalty, New Zealand, remember, they are down 14 points. England are now down to 14 women for the rest. And it's New Zealand who are powering over. New Zealand scoring the World Cup final. Georgia Ponsonby goes over and scores. This final just got interesting. England 14, New Zealand 5.
Well, they're going to be playing for Portia as well. She's such a big part, and when you lose a player through injury, it rallies you together. Obviously as well, they now know they're playing against 14, so that's going to rally them even more. I'm very interested in seeing that Claudie McDonald just took a jacket off and went for a warm-up, and I'm wondering what the tactics are that they're thinking there around it. But they had to react then, and they have reacted. They are the comeback queens. They are good at doing that, but my goodness, England are going to have to step up. They've got to rally together now.
Yeah, this is fascinating to watch. Claudie McDonald is ready to come on the field for England. She's having a really long discussion down at the moment in the technical area, actually, with Sarah McKenna, who's one of the non-playing reserves here at the World Cup, about what she's going to come on and do. England are in a huddle underneath the posts as they wait for Renee Holmes to take this kick at goal. Just a moment there for New Zealand to score a try like that through Ponsonby. I mean, that's going to give them such a fillip.
Oh, huge, because everybody speaks about the English pack and how incredible they are, and it must be quite tough being the Black Forms pack and being, you know, told that you're not as good, whereas actually to step up and do that driven line out as well, big positive moment for New Zealand rugby.
Here comes Renee Holmes then. We said earlier about her kicking, she's actually played football for New Zealand. She's actually competed at Taekwondo for New Zealand. I think she's also competed at Ultimate Frisbee. There's not a lot that this woman can't do as she takes her run up at goal. That one looks good. It is good. So in the World Cup final, it is England 14, New Zealand 7. The headline is, of course, that England will have to see out this World Cup final now with just 14 women on the field. Katie Daly-McLean.
Yeah, I mean, it's not how England would have wanted to go, you know. It's really important now, though, that I think that they just regroup. You know, New Zealand have scored, but for the next 5 minutes, England just need to get back to what they were doing. Kat said at the beginning of commentary, they've been very, very clinical, and that's what we need to see more of from England now.
And that's a mistake from New Zealand from the restart from England. A real chest bump of a ball, taking your eyes off it there by Maya Kalani Roos. It really went straight out of play, and she's given a gift of a line out to England just inside of the Black Ferns 22.
And exactly for England what they would want and they need to rally together to get an opportunity for a line out, which has gone so well so far in this game.
Well, Alex Matthews just holds on to the ball. There was real pressure coming in there by the Black Ferns, who've got that really low driving body position to slow this down. And I can tell you what, England will have zero interest now in trying to use their backs perhaps as much as we thought they might do. When you're down a player, you want to keep this game as tight as possible. You don't want to risk that ball going out, but this is excellent by England. The pack are turning up. They're still driving towards the line. It looks like Marley Packer now has it at the back. About 1 metre left to travel. Packer taking her time. She's over. 3 tries for England in the World Cup final. That line out was about 20 metres out from the Black Ferns line. The pack have driven it the whole way. Stunning.
And that's exactly, they're using their advantage. England pack is phenomenal. They have been this whole tournament. They have been for a year and a half. So actually, yes, they're a player down. It's a wing. So they're going to be wanting to just dominate with their pack, and they just have their scoring with 14. Like, come on, a World Cup final, go on. Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot of driving balls for the rest of this final for England fans, as they just show on the big screens the smile of Marley Packer, who is, of course, we talk about her a lot as being the heartbeat of this England side. She's also like their personal foghorn, because although they've lost a player, they'll be just as noisy, because Packer makes enough noise for about 20 women.
Absolutely, on and off the pitch, she's pretty loud. I joked about her before games, like running around the corridor being like, game day, and then actually apparently she was doing it. Yeah. So I was like, nothing's changed in the 8 years. But no, she does rally that team together. I think we're going to keep saying that word a lot, because it is a big ask. 60 minutes of in a World Cup final with 14 players. It's a huge ask, but England have really stepped up.
Emily Scarrett just eyeing up the posts, taking every second she can of this conversion, because she knows every second counts now when they're down. That one's come off the post, so that's the first one she's missed. It remains England 19, New Zealand 7 in this World Cup final. Just a reminder, if you're joining us here on 5 Live, we're focusing on rugby union this morning, but Steve Crossman, he will be here from midday with Alan Shearer and Ellen White for all the build-up to Saturday's Premier League games. It's going to be Ian Dennis and Pat Nevin. They're going to be at Anfield from 3. That's for commentary of Liverpool against Southampton, followed by Newcastle against Chelsea at 5:30 with John Murray and Chris Waddle. England, mistake there from the restart, and it's given away a penalty to the Black Ferns.
Yeah, so a simple knock-on off the kickoff, and then just the reaction is to touch the ball. But if you're in front, you just can't do it. So it's unfortunately for England, a stupid penalty to give away, really, because now it gets Black Ferns right back into this game.
New Zealand 7, England 19, 23 minutes on the clock. Ruahei Dement, fascinating character, the captain of the Black Ferns, as the ball just goes out towards the far side. She's got a nice line out there for her side. She's actually a qualified lawyer, and when the Black Ferns went professional at the turn of the year, she decided that she had too much time on her hands, so she started going and volunteering at a legal aid centre because she wanted to keep her hand in. As the ball goes long from the Black Ferns towards the back of the line out, they're 10 metres away from the England line, and they're trying to drive back at England. Now it's crabbing slightly towards the side. New Zealand need to straighten this one up. Marley Packer is waiting for that to come. It's Georgia Ponsonby who's still got it at the moment, but it's stopped. Kendra Cox-Edge is warned to use the ball. Comes back to Fitzpatrick. She passes out wide. And remember, England a woman down. They get it all the way out to Ariana Baylor. It's going to go over in the corner. Letty Ayinga. Letty Ayinga scores in the World Cup final. Oh, this is going to be tit for tat the whole way. I hope you're strapped in, because I don't think anyone's name is going to be on the trophy until we hit 80. That score means it's England 19, New Zealand 12.
Oh, wow, what a comeback. They started doing the driven line out, and then instead of keeping it in, keeping it tight, they got told use it, and they did certainly use it. They do have a player extra advantage. The pass was really long. Is a flat pass as well to get outside the defence, because fair play to England, they have tried to cover it well, but you're not stopping any of the New Zealand back three, no matter what combo they have out there with a player down and out wide, because they are out and out finishers.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Aisha Leti-Ayinga. She's got this really low centre of gravity from being a sprinter. I mean, Katie Daly-McLean, that was a classic move when you've got an extra player.
It was, and I'm not sure my heart can take it, if I'm honest. We're only 25 minutes in. It was, and it's, like Kat said, it's everything that you would want to do. They know that England are down a winger. You need to move the ball wide. And New Zealand have such prolific finishers on the edge, and when you've got that much space, you're not going to stop them. But for me, England have to go back to that territory game. They have to keep New Zealand deep in their half.
Well, Renee Holmes lining up the conversion here from the Black Ferns' second try. Now that's got distance on it. Oh, it just curls in right at the end. That's a fantastic kick there by Holmes. So it's now England 19, New Zealand 14. Holmes confidently runs back to join the Black Ferns, who have a full complement of 15, and England still sucking as much time out of this game as possible. They need the oxygen, a player down.
Absolutely, they came out with amazing intensity, but you just can't do that intensity for 80 minutes and 60 of which with 14.
Ball then lands inside of the Black Ferns at 22, and Coxedge manages to find Bremner to send her back rower down the park. She hits the deck. England not committing too many players to the ruck now for obvious reasons. A loose ball by the Black Ferns, a mistake by them. And the ball's going to play on this near side. They have, once again, they've done this twice now. They have gifted lineouts with bows on top to England inside of their own half.
Yeah, absolutely. Two errors almost in the 22. We saw the last one drive nearly 20 metres. This one could be the same.
Abby Ward, she goes into the air, cleanly takes the ball. She's taken a lot of credit from this World Cup for the success of England's line-out. She calls it, and more often than not, it works. And this is still moving. It's moving really slowly, though. It's not quite the last line-out that England had. They're so good at recycling. And this has now moved about 10 metres. It's New Zealand who are backpedaling. About 10 metres travelled. They're going to get another warning in a second. It's still there. It's Sarah Byrne. The bundle of energy to this, gathered on the floor in the end by Matthews, who does everything she can not to knock the ball on. What an incredible player she is. That was not easy. It has popped out on the New Zealand side. Nobody knows how that happened. But they're going to come back. Penalty to England. And there's an England player down injured. They're going to come back. There is an injury. That was a huge pile of bodies down on the ground. And they're going to come back and help whoever it is get back to their feet. I mean, the tension in this stadium, Cat Merchant, is off the scale right now.
The tension in this commentary box is off the scale. I'm with Katie. I'm about to have a heart attack. But yeah, it's huge. And when the ball comes out like that, generally, and no one's seen what's happened, it's generally a penalty because it's come out illegally.
By number 4 first, so it's going to be a black scrum restart.
Well, there you go. It's been knocked on. We're going to restart with a scrum, but there's still an England player down at the moment. I'm sorry, we don't know who it is because they're completely surrounded by bodies for the time being. So England have just gone off to the left-hand side of the field. If you're just joining us here on 5 Live, a very good morning to you. Probably not the calmest way to wake up in the morning. Little bit tense. It's a World Cup final. England against New Zealand. It's England 19, New Zealand 14, 27 minutes on the clock, and the headline so far, as much as if you're an England fan, they're leading, England are down to 14 women on the field, and we're just watching the replays at the moment, still trying to figure out which player it is down injured. We think it might be Alex Matthews, who was in a really tricky body position, and that will be, you think it might be Zoe Allcroft?
Yeah, I think so, yeah, because they do look very similar, but just on the floor I think I saw the 4 in there, so yeah, and that will be a blow for them as well, because Zoe Allcroft has had some huge hits in this game. She really puts her body on the line defensively.
Yeah, she's down on the ground still receiving treatment. The good news is they are taking the big medical bag off, which is always a reassuring sign when they do that. Big decisions here of what England are going to do, because there's Kath O'Donnell on the bench. A little bit of controversy, it was her on the bench and not Rosie Gallagher. Katie?
Yeah, like we know Rosie Gallagher had gone really well in the earlier rounds of the World Cup, but probably for me I think Kath is just a stronger, more aggressive, dynamic carrier, and obviously she's got a bit more experience than Rosie. Kath in the nicest way, has been round the block a bit more. So I think that's probably why Simon Middleton has gone from the Kath O'Donnell option, just because it firms up that pack. We really hope Zoe Allcroft is okay, because like Kat's touched on there, she's been such a great partner with Abby Ward in that second row.
And it's also worth saying that Zoe Allcroft, up until next week, is still the reigning World Player of the Year. Those awards will be in Monaco next weekend, where they will decide who wins the men's and women's player of the year. They don't announce it, of course, until after this World Cup final. But the good news is Zoe Allcroft is walking off and she is smiling.
Yeah, that's a very good sign. They'll just be taking her off to give us some checks there. But smiles, that's a good sign. Have a look at her, come back on hopefully if she passes.
And Kath O'Donnell is onto the field of play, winning her 24th cap. She originally started out in Rugby League, Kath O'Donnell. And it's hilarious if you ever speak to Simon Middleton about her, because she doesn't have the biggest personality, and in Simon Middleton's words, it's because our Kath, she's a doer, not a talker.
She's a doer. Like Katie said, I think she'll come on and she just does all the dog work again. And she's I mean this in a really complimentary way, she's brute. Like, she'll go on and she will do all the brute stuff.
Well, as a second row, I'm sure she'll be very happy with that. Right then, England. That scrum has gone down to ground, so the Black Ferns come away with it. It goes to Letty Iinga, who's come off her wing looking for work through the midfield. England down a woman for the rest of the World Cup final after that red card to Lydia Thompson. And they're tracking down the far field of the play. It's been hacked on by the Black Ferns, but not clean execution by them. And it's gone out of play on the far side again. And England will be so happy that the Black Ferns keep doing this.
Well, yeah, because to be honest there, they had a 2v1. Ruby Tui got herself way too flat because she was wanting the kick on. But actually, why would, in that situation when they are a winger down, 2v1, hands, give her the ball, let her have a run.
Well, once again, the line-out continues to function for England. I mean, what we've been through in just 28 minutes in this final is quite incredible. There's been tries, there's been cards, there's been changes. We now got penalty advantage to England from a line-out. It's still Amy Cockayne that has it. It's not penalty advantage. Holly Davis is just saying that line-out is finally over. And England, they are so good at this. They're just keeping the ball tight in the forwards because they know that with the extra player, the Black Ferns will be able to deal with this if they decide to release the backs. The whole game plan has had to be changed. Sarah Hunter's on her own. Eventually she has to be released. Lucy Packer, she goes in the Quins scrum half. She manages to feed it down the line. A looping run comes in by Holly Aitchison. Scarrett, Kildun, big pass out wide. Interception by Renee Holmes, but no. Referee will call it back, and they will be very happy for Renee Holmes to run the length of the field. There's too many England players chasing her. Holly Davidson is still blowing her whistle. Holmes doesn't realise that they've got to come all the way back. I don't think half the England team can even hear that the whistle has gone as well. So everyone is in total confusion here at Eden Park. They're going to come back. It was a penalty from the line out. And you can hear the boos round Eden Park. I mean, I'm just looking at the crowd. They're so angry with one Scotswoman who's... Holly Davidson's actually smiling.
I mean, that you can tell how loud it is in here because none of the players knew. The England players were heading behind the posts as a group. There was 3 players tracking back, and as you said, you just let her run. She could tire her legs out, we'll leave it. But yeah, I mean, Emily Scarrett for one will be pleased about that one because it's a big old pass to get it wide, but it was read well and intercepted. So really good for England that they have that advantage and they can come back for it. But New Zealand fans in the crowd are certainly not happy.
No, and New Zealand are used to winning Rugby World Cups, not just their men and the All Blacks, of course, because the New Zealand women, they could be the first women's host nation to actually win a Rugby World Cup. This is the 9th edition for the women, and no host nation has ever quite got over the line. And England, despite that being a very kickable penalty for Emily Scarrett, have decided to kick for the corner. They know that this line-out could be their ticket to a World Cup final victory. They've gone for slightly short numbers. It's Abby Ward who goes up and takes it like she has so many times. And Black Ferns throw bodies at it. Oh, the grimaces on the faces of the England players who know exactly where the line is. It's still moving, it's rocking, it's rolling. It's Packer who's got it underneath there. It's about 1 metre left to go. Is this the moment? Is this the move where England go over and score again? Try. England, fists in the air. They are so happy. It's Packer again. And this might just be the way they can squeeze out and find a way to victory.
Yeah, they're not going to win this game with 14 by taking 3 points when they're on offer. They have to go on the aggressive. They have to take points. You know, they have to try and get the full 7 with that. And with the line out operating how it is currently, why would you not definitely go for it for the corner?
Well, that's 4 tries now for England to New Zealand's 2. Marley Packer's gone over for 2 of them. This is not going to be a pretty final for England to win now. But ultimately, if England do go on to win this, Kat, who cares how they do it?
Oh, we said that, you know, from the start, you know, it's about winning a World Cup final, whether it's pretty or not. Now, if they manage to do that with 14 players for 60 minutes of that said final, then they get themselves into just a league of their own. It would be just such a huge achievement.
And what was it for white?
Emily Scarrett.
Yep.
About 10 metres out from the left-hand side of the uprights for the conversion.
Angle and out. Okay.
And takes her time. Of course, started out her rugby at Leicester Forest RFC. Age 5, she actually went back to Welford Road for her 100th cap in the Six Nations earlier this year, and she kicks that one cleanly, and that gives England a 12-point lead in the World Cup final. It's England 26, New Zealand 14, as we talk to the 2014 World Cup captain. Winners on that day, Katie Daly-McLean.
Yeah, I mean, what a 33 minutes we've had, isn't it? I think for me, this is the bit that the next bit now is really crucial for England. You know, we've kind of gone England score, New Zealand score, England score, New Zealand score. We need England now, or I need England to score next, and they just need to keep playing this territory-based game. I think Zoe Harrison is kicking phenomenally, and we want more of that, because New Zealand, like Kat has touched on, are not dealing with England's kicking game at all.
Sarah Byrne takes on the ball, runs it up the field. If you want all the reaction from the World Cup final, whatever the result is, don't forget, head to BBC Sounds, where you can hear the Rugby Union Daily podcast. And the ball is knocked on by Isha Letiainga, and it is these unforced errors by the Black Ferns that is keeping England in this.
Yeah, 3 in their own kind of, well, 2 were in the 22, 1 was kind of on the 10-metre line, but they're unforced errors as well. That was just a simple high ball, actually just dropped. Not much of a chase on it either, so really unforced errors here.
Aisha Letiainga, she's got a little bit of a smile on her face, but I think that's also being resigned to the fact of what has just happened. So England scrum between the 10 and the 22 on this near side of the field, about 10 metres out from the near side touch. And we get to see both sides packed, and haven't had too many scrums so far in this World Cup. We've talked so much about England's line out. Of course, 24 of their tries are from line out possession from the 38 that they have scored in this World Cup. Now, interesting decision here. It's a free kick for England, and they're deciding to run it. I thought they might have actually gone for another scrum to wind down the clock. Packer takes it into contact, and it's Lucy Packer who regathers. Alex Matthews, who has been an absolute wrecking ball for England so far in this final, takes it on. Saracens fly half, gives it to the Saracens 12 as Aitchison receives from Harrison, but no, referee Holly Aitchison's going to bring it back. It's a neck roll, and it's a neck roll by Kath O'Donnell, and that's the sort of thing that England cannot let happen. New Zealand decide to not kick it. They're just running it straight through the guts of England. I mean, it's unorthodox, and they make the mistake again. Advantage now to England from a knock-on from the Black Ferns. I mean, the Black Ferns are their own worst enemies right now here at Eden Park. So many mistakes. Clearly the occasion is getting to them as the ball is kicked on. What a beauty of a kick. It's going to go out of play 1 metre from the try line. That was a beauty from Zoe Harrison, who is playing the World Cup final of her life.
Oh, what a smart kick as well in there, just because, you know, the Kiwis are making so many errors in that area, then actually nudge it in, have a look at it, and they just let it bounce. Very clever kick, and now the pressure is completely on New Zealand, who aren't kicking well out of their 22.
We just got a shot of the England coaching box where Simon Middleton, Lewis Deacon and Scott Meeman actually applauded that kick from Zoe Harrison as the Black Ferns win their own line out and are now trying to play their way back down the park 5 metres from their own try line. Harrison herself goes in to make the tackle. Remember, England just not committing to the ruck, and if the Black Ferns keep making mistakes, they'll be happy with that. Ball goes back, it's loose once again. New Zealand cannot hold on to their own ball. It's loose at the back, the pressure is on. It goes out to the far side to Flula. Still Flula. Tackled in the end by Sarah Byrne. Emily Scarrett always ran inside and out of herself there. Couldn't see where Flula was going. Cox Edge is the Black Ferns, again, they are running this out of their own 22. They know they've got the numbers as Harini goes forward, manages to get it back to Bremner. It's Harrison who misses the tackle, but it's still Sarah Hunter who's trying to take her down. And the Black Ferns have made it to their own 10 metres. So much energy and so far to go. Back to Ruahe Dement, who loses the ball. Has it gone forward? There's a contest going on the floor. England throwing bodies at it now. Have they turned over the ball? No. Remains New Zealand. It's England 26, New Zealand 14. 2.5 minutes to go in the Rugby World Cup final till we get to half-time. Feel like we've played a whole final already. Here comes Ruby Tui. Pass back inside to Flula. Wonderful footwork, beautiful to see. Big tackle coming in on Ponsonby. Packer almost fell into it. The crowd didn't like it. And there's numbers on the near side for the Ferns, but they don't see it. Harini takes it in, and we're now playing advantage. It looks like it's knock on. Ainga. She tries to hand off England. Lucy Packer eventually scrags her woman. It takes a good 10 metres though. And the Black Ferns are inside of the England 22. They've got the penalty. Exhausting to watch, but so far effective, and a penalty for the Black Ferns in just the right place.
Where they are really good at playing with that chaos, as we talk about when they do it, is, you know, that 10 metre, between the two 10 metres, when they flow it around, they're stretching them a little bit more, they're offloading. That's when they look genuinely really, really dangerous. But trying to do it 5 metres out, England are just too good defensively for them to get away with it. So I think, you know, watching it, I'm just there, like, and I'm not normally a big fan of it, but just kick it, and chase it. They must be so frustrated on the sideline looking at this team. But that said, they've won a penalty up here. When they throw it around in the middle, it works really well for them.
So here's a chance for New Zealand to do what England have done to them. They've gone really long to the back of their line out. 6 metres to go to get to the England line. At the moment, the dam is holding, but can it be breached? New Zealand are shoving, they're pushing, they're getting closer. You can see them dragging bodies towards that line. Still going, oh, it was too easy. Amy Rule goes over for the Black Ferns. The tightest of finals continues to get tighter. They're creeping back into it. It's England 26, New Zealand 19, with a conversion to come.
England have to stay pumped here. They have to stay calm, but they have to not let this get into their head. They know it's going to be a long kind of second half, but here what they have to do is just survive until half time. Then they can have talk about tactics. I imagine there'll be some swaps in there. I wouldn't be surprised if Claudia McDonald comes on to carve things up there. But New Zealand, what a response. They've not been known for their forwards, but their forwards have really stood up when it's counted in those areas.
Well, there's not a lot of time on the clock. I think that'll be half-time once the conversion has been taken. Katie Daly-McLean, this is not going to be easy for either side.
It's not. And as a neutral, it is an amazing game of rugby. I don't think I've seen
neutral.
I'm not a neutral.
Nice try.
I am not a neutral at all. But it is a fantastic game of rugby. I think what I'm loving about the Black Ferns, and it does kill me to say it, it's just the way they move the ball. I know Kat's talked about it from in the 10s, but when you look at how brave they're being and how many meters, how many running meters they're taken from England, it is fascinating. You do not see that in either the men's or women's game anymore. People are kicking in territory-based teams, but they're giving a masterclass in running the rugby ball.
Well, Renee Holmes taking this conversion to take us to half-time. That one has gone well wide of the post. She hasn't quite got the distance on it either. Okay, what a first half. What a 40 minutes of rugby. There's been drama from start to finish, and we've still got another 40 to go. It's England 26, New Zealand 19, and Kat Merchant. They have got to dig deep, England, whilst New Zealand, they have got to turn up, arguably.
Yes, New Zealand really have to take their opportunity, and really more pressure is on New Zealand, because if you can't beat a team with 14 players, there's going to be a lot of questions asked, especially at home. But knowing what it's like, stood in that changing room when you are up against it, they have to come together, have those smart conversations, break out. But the most important thing when they go in, breathe. Just have a moment, and it just does all the wonder good. Just have one kind of moment to yourself before going through the tactics.
Well, the last 3 shirts down the tunnel was, of course, the England's Brains Trust. That is Sarah Hunter, Emily Scarrett and Abby Ward. They looked calm. Were they raging inside? We'll find out in another 40. Half-time in the Women's Rugby World Cup final. It's England 26, New Zealand 19. Ellie.
What an incredible first 40 minutes of rugby in Auckland. And just bear in mind as well, if you're just waking up at 19 minutes past 7 on this Saturday morning, Cat Merchant, England are doing this currently with 14 players on the field. They've got to win this, playing 3/4 of the game, a player down.
Yeah, and they're just, you know, the way that they're playing shows that they can still do that. They're scoring tries whilst the player down, but it is going to be tough because both teams play a fast game, so that's a lot to do. But I do believe they'd have done training on this. We did it back in 2014. We trained with 14 on purpose because things like this do happen. Yellow cards, red cards, you know, you lose players, injuries. So they will be prepared for it, but it is going to be a really hard graft this second half. But they are smart, keep it in the pack, draw them in, and then when it is on, and there will still be gaps because New Zealand will come tighter thinking that England aren't going to pass it wide, then that still is an option.
And absolutely no arguments, Katie Daly-McLean, about that red card for Lydia Thompson, head-on-head contact, and the loss of Portia Woodman, huge potentially for the Black Ferns. But as far as that conversation that we saw as Sarah Hunter was heading down the tunnel with the Brains Trust, as Sarah put it, what do you think she was saying? What would you have been saying in that position as captain?
Yeah, obviously, like you say, there's no arguments about the red, player safety, and obviously we've lost Portia from the game, which is, I'm sure if you're a New Zealand fan, a massive disappointment. But Abby, Emily and Sarah will have just been saying that this is probably what they've come to expect. They knew the game was never going to be a walkover, New Zealand were always going to turn up. So I think probably Sarah and Abby will be discussing that line out defence, but obviously New Zealand have scored a couple of tries now from the driving line out, so they'll probably be just looking at that about what tweaks they can make to stop that. But I think probably as a group it'll just be about keep doing what we're doing, keep kicking the territory. England have kicked 356 metres in the first half. Bear in mind they were probably only kicking about 550 in the full game in previous games. So they'll want to stick to that plan and just keep using their line out. It's been so formidable for them. It's working today, and just keeping that scoreboard ticking over.
Well, we're all taking a big breath, and we will be off to a pub in Twickenham, as you do this time on a Saturday morning, because Chris Jones and Ugo Monia are in the Cabbage Patch. So we were getting their reaction to the first 40 minutes of this World Cup final. We'll be back in Auckland for full second half commentary as well. But let's get some news headlines on 5 Live with Laura Harms.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Big crowds in the Ukrainian city of Kherson have spent the night singing patriotic songs after Russian forces withdrew. Ukrainian soldiers entered the city yesterday and have joined residents in dancing round fires in the streets. The Deputy Defence Minister Vladimir Havrilov said the retaking of the city was a momentous achievement, but there was work to be done to make it safe.
Open emotions, open energy. Do we feel a huge desire of people who left the area to return to their homes? And we ask people not to be in a hurry because we have to demine the area to secure all places. All of them are very excited, but we ask them to be careful.
2 English councils have failed in a legal attempt to block asylum seekers from being relocated to hotels in their areas. Ipswich Borough Council and the East Riding of Yorkshire Council had both argued that hotels were being converted to hostels in breach of their local planning controls. A House of Lords committee says an alphabet soup of bodies responsible for fighting fraud has created a vacuum of responsibility which allows criminals to get away with scams. The committee accuses successive governments of failing to prioritise the problem. The Met Police Commissioner says public sector strikes could stop forces fighting crime effectively. Writing in The Telegraph, Sir Mark Rowley says that officers already spend too much time on non-police work. This includes time in hospitals dealing with people with mental health conditions. He says that would worsen if strikes happen. And Matt Hancock says he's on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here to ask for forgiveness for breaching COVID measures when he was Health Secretary. Last night he told campmates he regretted his his actions. Mr Hancock resigned when he was caught on camera kissing a member of staff in his ministerial office.
And let's get the sports headlines away from Auckland with Jonathan McKeith.
Ellie, thank you. Last night's Men's World Cup semi-final between Australia and New Zealand was one of the best rugby league matches of all time, according to former Great Britain international Jonathan Davies. The defending champions Australia won 16-14 at Ellen Road. England are looking to join them later. They take on Samoa at the Emirates. Chloe Kelly got her first goal since scoring the winner in last summer's Euros final as England's Lionesses beat Japan 4-0 in a friendly in Spain. Erling Haaland could return to Manchester City's starting lineup as the champions aim to return to the top of the Premier League table with a win over Brentford's lunchtime kickoff at the Etihad. Arsenal, who are currently 2 points clear at the summit, go to Wolves at 7:45. There'll be no Jurgen Klopp in the Liverpool dugout for the visit of Southampton. The manager's been given a one-match touchline ban after the Football Association successfully appealed against the sanction he received for his sending off against Manchester City. Commentary from Anfield in 5 Live Sport from 3 o'clock. And Kevin Magnussen caused a sensation at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix by qualifying his Haas car on pole position for today's sprint race. The Dane, who returned to Formula 1 this season after a one-year hiatus, took his and his team's first pole with a remarkable performance at Interlagos. He will start today's sprint race ahead of world champion Max Verstappen.
The Women's Rugby World Cup on BBC 5 Live.
So, 7 tries and a red card. What more do you want from a Rugby World Cup final? Let's go to the Cabbage Patch in Twickenham. Chris Jones and Ugo Monia. I imagine that everybody there in that pub has been gripped by what they've seen so far.
Well, that was one of the best halves of rugby we've ever seen, Ellie, wasn't it? Unbelievable 40 minutes. Felt like it was about an hour, 2 hours. So much went on. Ugo's here, as you say. Giselle Mather as well. A World Cup winner in 1994. Top coach as well with Ealing Trail Finders, formerly of Wasps. Where do we start, guys? Where do we start?
Well, let's give the headlines. 7 tries.
We'll be here all day if we give the headlines.
It's been remarkable. For people who might be casual fans, this might be their first or their entry into the game of women's rugby. It's been phenomenal. It's everything we thought it might be, actually, with just a little bit extra. England is so heavily reliant upon this line-out drive, and why not? Because New Zealand don't have an answer. But they're also playing the likes of Holly Aitchison, Emily Scarrett, them playing from coast to coast and really testing New Zealand in those outside channels. As a backs coach, as a back, you must be thrilled to watching how they're playing.
Oh, this is insane. I mean, you know, as a product, who says women's rugby is not exciting to watch? This the 2 semi-finals and this final hopefully will change the face of women's rugby forever, in my mind.
And before just we talk about what England do in the second half, that point about the spectacle, the ball in play time, I haven't got the stats, it's chalk and cheese compared to the men's game, isn't it?
Well, with New Zealand, their policy, 85% of the time they run the ball out of their own area. They haven't changed that. They're under enormous pressure and they are still sticking to what they do with that, which has given them some bonus, and it's also put them under pressure. But to rely on your skill set in that way, that is awesome. And you buy into a game plan, you buy into it, and that's what they're trying to do.
Absolutely. In the men's game, the ball in play time at an international level will be less than a half. We haven't seen scrums taking 2 or 3 minutes, line-out drives of massive efficiency. Yes, we've seen kicking, but we've seen kicking with real purpose. When they've passed the ball and played with the ball, the skill level has been excellent. Yes, there have been mistakes, but this is a World Cup final in front of a packed-out Eden Park. So far, the product has been as good as what we could have ever wanted it to be.
And Giselle, if you take off your former England player hat and you've got your shirt on, we're going to put this on social media. It says World Championships 1994.
This was the shirt.
This was the shirt you wore in the final.
This was the shirt.
What a bit of kit. And take off that player hat and put on the coach's hat. What are the messages to the England players with that player down? Scoreboard's on their side, but we know the Blackbirds have got a lot more points in them.
Well, I think from my point of view as a coach now, both camps, their coaches have got to earn their coin right now. From Wayne Smith's point of view, getting his girls to exploit it, because actually they've gone quite tight since it happened. They've had one where they've moved the ball and scored, but they have gone quite tight. I think from England's point of view, Simon Middleton has got to make sure that they've worked out exactly how they're going to defend all sorts of situations to prevent, because the try that they scored when they went wide, we got ridiculously narrow. And even if we'd had Lydia on the field at that moment, I think they probably would have scored.
Yeah, I think they're all really good points. England, for me, in defence need to work out, are they going to target the ball at the breakdown, which they've actually profited lots of, or are they just going to fill the field and just try and suffocate them? Holly Aitchison, we were talking in the first half, she's the most aggressive centre that they have, and I mean in terms of taking the space. So she, I think, has a massive forte just to get in the eye lines of the Blackburns who are trying to play wide. She's turned them inside out on loads of different occasions. The game plan for England actually simplifies territory, and Zoe Harrison, her best attribute is her kicking game. If they can pin the Black Ferns in their half or their third, they know they've got the artillery to be able to convert it into tries. Discipline is a massive thing in finals. We've seen it with the red card, just hoping it doesn't cost the Red Roses.
And in a game, Giselle, that has a bit of a seesaw feel, you score, we score, you score, we score, the team that backs up their try scores twice in a row. What a momentum swing that's going to be.
Yeah, and I think we've seen a bit of fallibility from both sides on the kick-off receipt directly after they've scored. So New Zealand dropped theirs, England scored. Abby Ward dropped hers, they scored from that area. Directly after you've scored, the concentration levels have got to be really, really high. And I think at the moment there's almost like a sense of, right, we got that one and not ready for the next job. And as Ugo says, our discipline now, we can't go down to 13.
What about
no yellow cards?
No, exactly. What about the range of emotions we've seen in this place? Oh. From the first 10 minutes when everyone was on their feet cheering, and then the eerie silence with the red, and then the Blackburn strike.
But look at it, it's packed right through to the back. There are hundreds of people come here to watch the game at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's just extraordinary.
There was a queue of 200 people outside at 6 a.m. to get up to watch the Red Roses.
Hey, women's sport revolution, it's here to stay. Can't stop it now.
And it's going to be a special second half, Ellie, isn't it?
It really is. Thank you so much, guys. What an atmosphere in the Cabbage Patch in Twickenham, and what an atmosphere in Auckland as well. Really all to play for in the second half. It's so interesting as well, looking at some of the comments on social media from some of those 2003 Men's Rugby World Cup final winners. Jason Robinson saying, get in there, Ellie Kildun. That first try from the fullback before that trio of tries from the pack from an England point of view. 2 for New Zealand as well. Matt Dawson says this is a try fest. 7 tries, as we've said, in the first half, but England have got to get through another 40 minutes of this World Cup final down to just 14 players. So can they do it? Can they hold out? Can they beat New Zealand in a Rugby World Cup final for the first time? Let's head back to Auckland, and Kat Merchant is alongside Sarah Orchard.
Thanks, Ellie. Hope everyone's taking a deep breath. This is it. It's all come down to this. The first half is over. 7 tries have been scored, 4 of them by England, 3 of them by New Zealand. But it is England who are down to 14 women. They've made a change. Poppy Cleal is on the field. They have taken off regular captain Sarah Hunter. Your thoughts, Kat Merchant?
Oh, that's big. That's really big, because you have to dig deep in this, and you want your captain there to get you through it. That said, though, credit to Poppy. She is a aggressive player. She's no stranger to the try line. A year ago, everyone would have picked her to be starting in a World Cup final because she was on form, the favourite. She's been benched through this tournament, but she will come on and make a difference. But it is a very big call.
Poppy Cleal was once described by the England head coach Simon Middleton as the best player in the world. Perhaps the reason she hasn't been starting is because she has been behind the immovable force that is Sarah Hunter, the regular captain, who won her 140th cap in this World Cup final today. But you do just feel the 6-2 split that Simon Middleton has gone for on his bench could be his ticket to a final win, depending on what happens in the next 40. Here we go. Half-time, it was England 26, New Zealand 19. From the restart, gathered right on the edge there by Ruby Tui. Gathered now by Amy Rule. It's New Zealand travelling from left to right in this second half. Of course they're wearing black. You know the Black Ferns are wearing black. England in their full white as New Zealand start pushing out towards the far side. Flula goes on, runs round Emily Scarrett, back inside to Holmes. This is not good for England. Track down to Ellie Kildun, down in the corner. What a restart for the the Black Ferns. Flula touches down within 30 seconds of the second half getting underway. The Black Ferns have crept back into this. Still a conversion to come, but it's England 26, New Zealand 24. Huge defensive lapse by England.
That was an incredible try. Fair play to Black Ferns. That was awesome. Got it wide. They ran it out their 22. It is a policy that they have. They don't kick it a lot. This time it works for them. And Stacey Flula, just the absolute gas around the outside. Might have looked like she was going to switch back in. Holds onto it almost like a sevens play. And then the link play off the back of it. So many times when a player makes a line break, they end up getting tackled by 3 players, but they kept it alive. They moved it. Renee had options either side of her as well, but that was a fantastic try.
Well, they call Stacey Flula the smiling assassin. She is always smiling, and she's one of those players who's been there. She's done it all. She's won a World Cup in sevens. She's won an Olympic title. She was there on the field in 2017, the last time New Zealand won the World Cup. And I can tell you, the whole of Eden Park is buzzing right now. There are so many people on their feet. They're waving their New Zealand flags. And Emily Scarrett ran up then early to try and charge down Renee Holmes' effort, and she's been sent back by Holly Davidson. This will level the score in the World Cup final. New Zealand trailing by 2. This conversion by Holmes. She's taken it outside the 22, lines it up. It's going to go to the left-hand side of the upright. So England still have the lead by only 2 points. But this is a big moment now. Katie Daly-McLean in studio.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it, Sarah, for England? We talked about wanting England to come and start well, and for me, that's exactly what you didn't want to happen, was to allow New Zealand to score. But they've got to go back to process. They've got to go back to what they're good at. They've got to play a territory game and stop giving New Zealand ball to let them go and run from anywhere.
From the restart, Zoe Harrison sends it really deep. McMenamin has the ball. England being pushed off any chance they wanted to try and contest the ruck. And New Zealand are just going to keep running and running all the way through. The ball's gone backwards by the Black Ferns. Here comes Fitzpatrick. And they're targeting at the moment that far side of the field, perhaps through the England centres. You wonder if that partnership between Holly Aitchison and Emily Scarrett that did so well in the Six Nations is faltering at just the wrong moment. Loose ball on the floor. It's not been taken by New Zealand. They took the ball in. We're going to restart with an England scrum.
Yeah, very clever defence there. They opted to hold her up so that then actually when it did end up going to ground, no one had to move. It was ball unplayable, so England then get the put in.
Yeah, Emily Scarrett, she looked up at the big screen there, just knowing that she is in the spotlight right now. It was her defensive lapse that caused that try. She's going to try and make amends.
Well, it was just, you can't argue with gas, and Flula just had her for gas there, so it went around the outside of her. But you could see, yeah, the intent in Emily Scarrett's eyes. She was not having anybody go round her again, and very, very aggressive in her defence.
Vicky Cornborough, the Portsmouth prop, she's just having a bit of running repairs done. Plays a rugby at Harlequins, her 75th cap today in this World Cup final. She's long been a favourite of Simon Middleton. For ages she was one of the first names down on the team sheet, but we thought that Hannah Botman had just edged ahead. She was going to start in the semi-final, but she picked up a really serious injury in training ahead of that semi. She's down on the bench at the moment. She's on crutches. It's gutting for her, but Cornborough's still a safe pair of hands.
Yeah, she's a real solid player. So you know, as a lot of the pack they're reliable, they're solid, they do it. What Bottoman gives you is that extra aggressive edge, and she does do the line breaks like the likes of Sarah Byrne does, so she gets the offloads away. She is a very different style of player to Cornborough, and yeah, gutting for her, but apparently from all things in England camp she's just been super positive. As soon as she was injured, first thing she said, how do I help the team?
England 26, New Zealand 24 in the Rugby World Cup final. Still early stages in this second half. Big push from England. It comes out the back of the scrum. Manages to get it away to H. Now Scarrett through the middle of the park. Taken down by the Black Ferns centres. Packer with the quick redistribution. It's going to be a charge down ball there by Zoe Harrison. She regathers, but it's going to be advantage now to the Black Ferns. Coxedge with the quick box kick. Going back to gather it is Ellie Kildunn. She's watching the bouncing ball. It's still bouncing. It goes out of play on the near side. It's going to be an England line out. And it's moments like that where they are dicing with decisions.
Yeah, you never, as a back three, you just never want to let a ball bounce, because actually if that bounces back in, New Zealand get the ball, but worked out well because now England have the line out.
Arguably, England are time wasting at the line out. They will be very happy with that. And it's a long combination towards the back. That was one of the longest line out routines I've seen for a long time. A lot of dancing, a lot of jumping, a lot of it's me, it's you, no, back to you again. And England have the ball. They're trying to maul this one away. And the warning goes to England. It's Packer who takes it forward, and England, they're playing inside of their own half between the 10 and the 22. And Zoe Harrison decides she has to take it into contact. They're just playing coast to coast for the time being, England, not trying anything too clever. And they're down a fly half at the moment because Zoe Harrison's still peeling herself up off the Eden Park turf. This is real tough stuff. It's Scarrett now with the clearance. She has to really hoof that ball. Pressures Renee Holmes, who's down inside of the Black Ferns half. And here they come in full flight. This is what New Zealand love. They've been given space and they're going to run with it. On the far side, Flula couldn't take it. They've knocked on the ball, the Black Ferns. They're going to try and run it, England, but they'll come back for the scrum. And it's a danger moment if England keep kicking to the back three.
If they kick, they have to chase the whole way across the pitch. You always try and chase in a three, so you go ball carrier on either side, so you cut them off. But what New Zealand do is when they catch it, the two passes get it the width of the pitch, so the whole line has to come up together and cover the whole pitch.
A couple of changes for New Zealand as they bring on Luca Connor and Crystal Murray, as we get the thoughts of Katie Daly-McLean.
I mean, 6 minutes into the second half and it definitely hasn't slowed. I think, interestingly, we've got Poppy Cleal on now. We know what she can do. She's a phenomenal carrier. But for me, England probably just need this ball to go out when they're kicking now. We know they've got a very long kicking game with Zoe Harrison, Emily Scarrett. But I'd just like to see them try and pin New Zealand, try and hit some corners, try and get that ball to bounce inside the 15-metre line and just dribble into touch. Because as Kat has alluded to there, as soon as New Zealand get the ball in their hand, they want to get their heads up, they want to stretch England, and with 14 it's asking a lot defensively.
46 minutes here in the Rugby World Cup final. England 26, New Zealand 24. Just a few facts that will ultimately scare the bejeevers out of any England fans that are listening. New Zealand, they've won all 3 games this year where they had been trailing at half-time. They were against Australia and France. Also, don't forget that New Zealand have never lost a Women's Rugby World Cup final. And the 4 times they played England, they've beaten them. That was a huge scrum by New Zealand, but somehow Poppy Cleal has managed to hold onto that ball under intense pressure, and it comes away now. England on the halfway. Remember, they're playing with a woman down for the rest of this final after that red card to Lydia Thompson in the first half. It will be absolutely exhausting. The lactic acid will be starting to burn, and I can tell you the Black Ferns, they are just trying desperately to charge down everything England. Flula is evading so many tackles, and in the end it comes back to Coxedge, who's in space out the back. It's a bouncing ball that Harrison is having to watch. It's going to go out of play on the far side. The crowd go wild at Eden Park. It's going to be a line out for the Black Ferns just inside of the England 22.
An error there tactically from England, a chip kick over the top, a little short one, but it's just gathered by New Zealand, and they do just move it wide and they move it well. Now they're a winger down as well, England. It means that there's less cover in that back 3 positioning, so they're opening themselves up to obviously having a kick in behind, which is exactly what they spotted there, and as it bounced into touch.
There was a big cheer that came up from the Black Ferns coaching box. Wayne Smith in there. He's won 2 World Cups with the All Blacks, 2011 and 2015. He was brought in to shore up the Black Ferns after their disastrous autumn tour. They lost twice to England, twice to France. And of course, this is their home World Cup. The New Zealand Rugby Union knew something had to change. And the man to make that change for them was Wayne Smith. We're now playing advantage at the moment to the Black Ferns as they look up and appeal to Holly Davidson for a penalty. They've got it. The ball is down on the ground. It's still Black Ferns' ball. They're about 15 metres out from the England line still. Pick and go by the women in the black shirts. It's Rule now, the try scorer from the first half. Kendra Coxedge is appealing. She's shown the ball by Holly Davidson, told to use it. Spun back once again, Crystal Murray. On as a replacement in the second half, the Blues prop, Fitzpatrick. She decides to go straight forward. And England have been very careful about how they commit to tackles just because they know they're a player down. Pushed out towards the far side. Crystal Murray is there. Crystal Murray scores. New Zealand take the lead for the first time in the Women's Rugby World Cup final. The whole of Eden Park goes bananas, and it's game on. New Zealand lead 29-26.
The crowd here is absolutely incredible. They're all on their feet. They're going wild for their team. And unfortunately for England, that was an inevitable score, because when you have the extra player, it's so hard. And when you know, you can't give away penalties, it's very difficult in the way you defend. They're playing it very safe. But credit to New Zealand. They just kept on playing the advantage, and they got the score.
It looks like New Zealand are going to make changes as well for the restart. You can see Kennedy Simon is primed and ready to come on. Kennedy Simon, she's actually one of the co-captains of the Black Ferns, and she was kept out of the start of this tournament with a knee injury, but what an impact sub she is expected to be as we wait for another conversion by Renee Holmes out on the far side of the field. So this would extend the Black Ferns lead. What was such a confident start from England in the opening stages of this Rugby World Cup final. And now it is New Zealand. They are calling the shots. Holmes, far side of the field, only winning her 10th cap, 22 years old.
I think that some England substitutions we're going to be seeing pretty soon. Some exciting players coming on as well, so keep an eye peeled for those.
And Holmes just misses there to the side of the upright, so it remains New Zealand 29, England 26, and I can also see Sadia Kabea and Claudia McDonald coming onto the field of play. Katie Daly-McLean.
Yeah, I mean, England's bench are going to have a big job to do now, aren't they? Sadia Kabea, Claude McDonald, we know how great form they've been in during this World Cup. So, but I mean, the likes of Marley Packer, Sarah Hunter going off on massive calls by Simon Middleton. You want experience in this business end, the back end of the game when you're 3 points down. So to take those players off for me is huge calls.
Sadia Kabea, just 20 years old. She was the Premier 15's Player of the Season last year. She's coming into this World Cup final as the Black Ferns just knock on the ball. And this is a real opportunity here for England. It's going to be a scrum for them inside of the Black Ferns 22. And we should say that Claudia McDonald, she's come on to play scrum half. This is the first time we're really going to see us play scrum half at this World Cup, because she's been playing on the wing.
Yeah, she's been playing on the wing. She was obviously injured before that. Wasn't even sure she was going to be able to come back to rugby. So an incredible story. This one's an exciting substitution for me, because this one is right. Go out there. We've seen you carve up on the wing. She's so quick and she backs herself. So this could be the edge they need in the scrum half position. I agree with Katie about taking Marley Packer off and Sarah Hunter. Take one of them off, but both when it's so tight and you need that pack to really step up and lead, it is a big call. But Sadia Kabea did so well in the semi-final when she came on. So again, you're rewarded for that. You know, go at it and see what you can do.
51 minutes here on 5 Live in the Women's Rugby World Cup final. New Zealand 29, England 26. If you're just joining us, where have you been? Have you been in bed? Oh my goodness. How can you sleep when this is going on? We're live at Eden Park in one of the most tense cauldrons, the cathedrals, one of the best in rugby in the whole world, and England have just got a free kick from a scrum. And big decision here if they go for another scrum again. Yes, and this is all about winding down the clock.
Wind down the clock while they've got the numbers, but they need to get back ahead in this game as well. You know, it's 3 points, so they might be thinking about penalty as well, but that's twice New Zealand have done that. They've gone in early. They are clearly worried about how strong this England pack are, but the most important thing for me now is they have to believe. When you are behind, you just have to you're not chasing the game yet. They've got enough time. They just need to settle, do what they were doing in the first half, keep to their process, as we said about it. Hate the word, but actually they've got to do that, and just with that extra bit of energy.
Well, that scrum has engaged. Huge push, and it's a penalty for England. That's what they wanted. That's what they've got. And again, expect a really slow decision. All of the England backs are slowly walking in, say, should we talk about this? Should we talk about that? I tell you what, Zoe Harrison, you kick for the corner. You set up the line out. And we will try and perform once again what is now one of the slickest operations in rugby today, and that is the driving maul from the line out.
Big call though, 3 points down. They could have taken the 3 points to be obviously drawing, but they're going for the corner because it has been working so well, but they have to execute.
Cocaine gets the ball in toward and it's moving, it's shoving. England, they're looking to take the lead again. It's still got legs. It's so powerful from England. It's over. Amy Cockayne has just scored a hat-trick in the Rugby World Cup final, and she puts England back in front once again. England 31, New Zealand 29.
Never in doubt, was it, to any of their minds what they were doing. I don't even thought that they thought about the post for even a second. They were going for that corner, and it is impossible to stop. They just cannot be stopped. They are so well drilled at it, and the timing as well for me, for Amy Cockayne, is obviously it's going forward so she can see, but it is a skill in its own to time that correctly to make sure you go down. Incredible for her.
Right then, Emily Scarrett, she's just pulling up her socks, and then she's going to the other side to pull up the other sock, because this is all about a time game. I can't stress that enough to anyone who's just tuning in for this. England with 14 women, they've got to play so smart. They're going to be exhausted by the end of this, but this is ultimately them taking on the oxygen, getting on the water, getting the messages in from the sideline as Emily Scarrett lines this one up. Of course, Emily Scarrett playing in her 4th Rugby World Cup final here today. She was just a whippersnapper back in 2010 when they lost to New Zealand at the Stoop. She scored the most points to take England to the title in 2014. Not to be in 2017 in Belfast. As she lines up this one, it's gone to the right-hand side of the upright, so it remains England 31, New Zealand 29. I'll take breath. Kat Merchant, what have England got to do?
They have to just keep doing what they are doing. They need to play the territory game. They need to make sure they're getting those kicks out. Go for the driven lineouts when they're offered, for penalties, everything like that. And they just have to make sure that their pack is bullying this New Zealand pack as well.
Ball's going to come down, try to be popped back down. Oh, that's great from the Black Ferns. Really smart stuff. It's Kennedy Simon now on the ball. Really strong as they rev up the engine, the Black Ferns. They're feeling something here. I can't tell you how much. Back and forth, up and down the field. This World Cup final is. It's now the Black Ferns on the England's 22. It's a huge pile of bodies at the moment. It's Crystal Murray, of all people. The reserve prop has gone into play, scrum half. Amy Rule, the Christchurch University student, takes it on. Moni again made her debut just last year. So much inexperience in this Black Ferns side, but they have turned up for this. Warnings going into England as they turn over the ball, but we're now playing advantage to the Black Ferns. Spun out towards the near side. Ruby Tui on the ball, trying to run round Scarrett. It's a little bit east to west so far from the Black Ferns. They're taking their time. Crystal Murray tries to punch a big hole straight through. Makes a couple of metres. This is better from the Black Ferns. It's not the kind of rugby we often see them play. Manages to be spun out towards the left-hand side. Bremner tries to cut back inside. Kabir is there. So many phases being strung together by the Black Ferns, but they just can't find a hole yet. And they're still about 10 metres inside of the 22. That's gone down on the ground. Referee really happy that that's just come off the foot. It's turned over ball from England. All of that pressure from the Black Ferns, all of a sudden released, and England just now need to clear their lines. Harrison, she just fumbles with the ball ever so slightly, sends it down the field, but it's not gone out of play. It's forward by Holmes. Big tackle coming in by Claudia McDonald. It looked like the ball had gone forward there. Yes, it has. Scrum down. England ball. What are we watching, Kat Merchant? This is crazy rugby.
It is crazy rugby, but one thing that's actually standing out for me is the errors that New Zealand are making. In the first half, they made a few unforced ones. Now when they're making them, it is because of the defensive pressure of England. They are really getting in. They're getting in close, so they're not allowing... They think the offload's on, New Zealand do, and it's not, because England are there, and it's the pass is going to floor, and they are forcing that.
Well, we're having a little bit of treatment now to Crystal Murray, who's only recently come on for the Black Ferns, so that will be a slight concern for them. High time to get the thoughts then of the 2014 England winning captain, Katie Daly-McLean.
Yeah, I'm not sure Crystal Murray's injured and whether she's got a little bit of cramp there. She's got a good old pickle juice, which Kat Merchant will know well. When you get a bit of cramp, it's something that basically gets rid of it, and it's like drinking like pickles, basically.
Vinegar?
Yeah, vinegar. Yeah, exactly that. So, which is interesting because she's only been on the field maybe 10 minutes, just showing you the intensity and the tempo of the game. But England have got to be smart for me now. I think for Zoe Harrison's kicking game has been immaculate in that first half, but I'd just like to see her put the ball out now. I think England have to conserve a bit of energy. We know defensively they've made an immense amount of tackles, which really saps you if you haven't got the ball. And I think where England's set piece has been really, really dominant, scrum's going well, line out has been absolutely phenomenal, as we know from the tries they've scored. England just need to play a bit more of a slower set piece game for me. Kick those corners, make New Zealand go from deep if they're gonna go for it. But yeah, England just need to kind of be a bit more savvy in how they're playing at the moment.
Well, both sides, they've just had a little bit of a water break, and Holly Davidson is trying to encourage them to both come back in so they can restart this Women's Rugby World Cup final. Of course, there's loads of World Cup action at the moment. Doesn't matter what sport you like, there's something for you right now. And from 2:15 on 5 Live Sports Extra, there's going to be England taking on Samoa. That's the semi-final of the Men's Rugby League World Cup. That game will also be live on BBC One later. Right then. England 31, New Zealand 29, 57 minutes on the clock. And I have to say, we're getting some close-ups on the big screens of some of the England players' faces. They're smiling. How can you be smiling right now?
I think they're just embracing the moment, but there is also that there's psychology to it as well. If you look up and you're smiling, what? I'm not knackered. Are you knackered? So you're just kind of playing your poker face there as well.
Well, we're going to restart then with a scrum. It's an England scrum. Kendra Coxedge is marshalling Claudia McDonald. Worth saying, we learnt about Kendra Coxedge in the press conference this week that she listens to Celine Dion as she packs her bag to get ready for test matches. I've not heard that one before, is all I'm going to say. I've heard a lot of Eminem, 8 Mile, but never Celine Dion. Ball down on the floor. England penalty from the scrum, and this England pack is something special.
Absolutely, both the line out and the scrum, they win penalties, they score when they need to, they just get England good quality ball and get them out of pressure as well.
It's worth mentioning that the England forwards coach Lewis Deacon, he was brought in for this exact purpose. When England won the Six Nations back in 2001, one of the biggest comments that came away from what was then the final, as it was deemed because it was COVID, was the fact that England's set piece just wasn't strong enough. And Lewis Deacon came in, and boy, has he been excelling at the day job, is all we will see. A former England international in his own right, well known for his days at Leicester, as we see a lot of Black Ferns players going into this maul that England are trying to work their way out of now. This is completely stopped. This will be a problem for England. It's gone down to ground. It's been taken in by England, so that will be a restart scrum for the Black Ferns. And that will be a huge boost for the home side.
Massively, because they have been driven back so far, but actually they could put one of their backs in even when it does get going like that. They can afford to lose a number because England are one player down in that back line, but they seem to get it sorted. It got stopped. Poppy Cleal runs in to try and get it moving a secondary time, but once it goes down, ball unplayable. Black Ferns get the put in.
Okay, far side of the field is where the scrum is lined up. It's just inside of the Black Ferns territory, and it's about 10 metres out from the far side touch. Both sides just packing down at the moment. Interesting, England has still got quite a few players on the bench they haven't actually used yet, and I think they're just making sure they get every ounce out of every player on the field before they use them.
And they need to, because this game is going to come down to probably the last minute, so they need to make sure they have some energy that can come on and just make their impact onto this game as well.
Kennedy Simon collects from the base. It's Kendra Coxedge who kicks through. Ellie Kildunn, she is just watching the ball bounce one too many times at the moment. It's giving the Black Ferns so much time, and she's trying to run away with it at the moment. Still Kildunn, who runs straight into Ruby Tui. He's trying to choke tackle her. Eventually it does go down to the floor. If England have held on to it, it's really messy. The Black Ferns were desperate there. Here comes Cleal. Of course, Poppy Cleal, the Saracens' number 8. Her twin sister, Bryony Cleal, didn't make World Cup selection, but Poppy actually paid for her ticket to come out here at the final. I mean, talk about being twin sisters. We heard that when Bryony wasn't selected, Poppy went round to Bryony's house with pizza, wine, biscuits, chocolate. I mean, when you're identical twins, it's personal.
Yeah, and you know, selection is so tough because it's normally your friends and your teammates if one of you gets in, one doesn't, but imagine that with your twin. So going around like that, amazing, and paying for a flight to come out here, what a hero. I think to do that is just so incredible.
And A mistake there from New Zealand at the line out, and it was then knocked on by England at the back, so we restart then with a New Zealand scrum.
And they're starting to get nervy now. This is the territory, you know.
Starting to get nervy. Blimey, it's been nervy since the
not
first
for
minute,
me, not for me, but player-wise, I think it's starting to go right now. It's 20 minutes, you know. There's only 2 points between them, and they're starting to get that. Each dropped ball now is going to have more of a meaning or more of an impact. So that does keep building the pressure.
Okay, New Zealand scrum, strong platform for them as well. Inside of the England 22, 15 metres out from the near side. Coxedge releases the backs. Tui with the pass to Dement. Dement goes through the middle. Scarrett reads that really well. Takes her down to the deck. Coxedge then just trying to get her mitts on the ball. Manages to find Rule. There's no New Zealand player there. Eventually Coxedge arrives, but that was really slow for them. They've been really credited for wonderful ruck speed throughout this World Cup, but England are slowing this down very nicely. Don't forget, it is still New Zealand with the extra women on the field. England have played with 14 now for nearly 40 minutes. And New Zealand edge closer. They are appealing to the referee for a penalty, but no! The penalty goes the way of England. New Zealand not releasing. And there's a Blackburn player down injured on the field. They're going to stop the clock, so she gets the treatment she needs. Oh my goodness, I'm lost for words now, Kat. What have you got?
Well, that was huge moment, because New Zealand were really throwing everything they could at that. For all intents and purposes, they were going for a try. They were playing it as much as they could. They were going through the middle. They were really edging closer. Credit to the England defence to wait it out and actually eventually then get the penalty as well. Huge moment for them.
Yeah, it's Amy Rule who's down injured at the moment, receiving a little bit of treatment. A good time for me to remind you, we've also got a really big night of boxing tonight on 5 Live. That's going to be from 10 p.m. We're going to bring you commentary of the super welterweight unification clash between Natasha Jonas and Marie-Eve Declare. That's in Manchester, so do tune in for that one. Sport the whole way through on 5 Live today. It is such a busy sporting calendar. Let us not forget the fast approaching Men's Football World Cup. Let's head back to Manchester itself, and Katie Daly-McLean, what would you be saying right now if you were speaking to those England players under the posts?
I think that the girls, and probably the message is just about a bit of calm, a bit of clarity. We've seen England make a couple of uncharacteristic errors there that have allowed New Zealand territory in. But what is really interesting is how England are defending New Zealand scrum. They're dropping a forward now, so they're only packing down with 7 because they know their scrum is so dominant, and they're putting Poppy Cleal in that 10 position, which just is giving England a bit more width in their defensive setup. It's allowing them to go backs against backs, whereas previously we've seen, obviously with the loss of Lydia Thompson, England haven't a back down. They're now going full complement of backs against backs, and I think that's probably just to try and stifle that New Zealand attack.
Okay, a few changes then for New Zealand. They have brought onto the field there Santo Tamata, who's their reserve tight head, as England just clear their penalty towards the far side of the field. They have the line out as well. Tamata will be playing very, very carefully. She was the player that gave away the penalty that could have allowed France to try and take the semi-final. It was Caroline Drouin who missed that kick, and it was New Zealand who managed to get it out of play quick enough, as once again England then mauling away down the far side of the field. It really is like watching poetry in motion if you love your forward hard graft. It's incredible how many hard yards these women make with this maul. I don't think we will ever see anything as effective again as the England driving maul at this World Cup. Ball comes away through McDonald. It's Dow who's had the ball. They were probably thinking that the backs might get a little bit more ball in this World Cup, but due to the fact that England are down to 14 women, it hasn't happened, as Byrne knocks on the ball, and it'll be a restart scrum for the Blackferns. And I can tell you, some of the England players, they are just that you can see their chests are heaving, the sweat is pouring off, and they have still got 17 minutes to go. It's England 31, New Zealand 29.
It's still just too close for comfort for either side, really, because you know, when you are within a penalty, you play different styles as well. You try and play less risky, but it's just too close. It's uncomfortable. It just makes everybody on edge, especially me. England have to just settle into this game, like just make sure that they're getting really good defence up in New Zealand's faces, stop them from attacking, because they do still have the edge. They've got a better line out, they've got a better scrum, and that's the platform that they need to attack from.
Well, 24% of tries from New Zealand in this World Cup, they've come from turnovers or counter-attacking possession. We haven't seen so much of it as they just send more players right through the middle towards the England white shirts. New Zealand ball on the halfway line, they kick it through by Dement, and that's been kicked into open space. Dow gathers, she looks for options, she's going to try and run this one, which is a fascinating decision by Dow. She's going from side to side, port to starboard, but still going. Abby Dow on her own, she's got support outside her. Eventually she's taken down on the far side of the field, but that was a big hit. The referee is going to stop play. I think they're going to review that tackle. Now this is another big moment. New Zealand, they've got 15 on the field.
Okay,
England
have
got 14.
We just want to make sure that it's nothing more than a yellow card.
So it's definitely at least going to be a yellow card.
There's not many angles of it due to where it was in the field, but we'll get the best angle first, but it appears that the information is correct.
Okay, so it sounds like it's going to be at least a yellow card there. That you heard the voice there of Ben Whitehouse, who is the television match official. And if New Zealand do go down to 14, that will give England 10 minutes of breathing time.
Yes, to get back into it. I'm just trying to have a look at the plays here, and to me that's shoulder to head at force, so I don't know how that's only a yellow.
Well, there's been a lot of decisions in this World Cup where we've actually thought they could have been red cards, not yellow cards.
That's a red.
Point of contact, as you said, is on the shoulder, and then it rides up.
Yeah, so yellow card to 20.
Yep.
In my mind, that is never a yellow. I think the speed at which coming across.
For us, first it's on the shoulder.
I don't know. I'm baffled by that. I think she's very lucky.
Well, it's a yellow card then for New Zealand. It's Kennedy Simon, again, a hugely influential player for them, one of their co-captains. She's going to go and sit on the bench. But it's 14 against 14 as Abby Dow just gets to her feet. Now, she is shaky. I'd be amazed, absolutely amazed, if she is allowed in any way to do anything other than go off for an HIA.
Yeah, she looks dazed at the best of times, does Abby Dow, just in general. But yeah, a shot like that to the head at that intensity, she's come up, she definitely looks dazed. They're dabbing her eyebrow, that's how high she was hit. She's going to have to take at least a HIA.
Okay, well, there's only one back left. It's Tatiana Hurd, who they're waiting to bring onto the field. Your thoughts, Katie Daly-McLean?
Yeah, I mean, again, another card. The inconsistency for me in some of these cards is fascinating, but that's one for another day. I just think it's fascinating watching Abby Dow there. The girl doesn't look like she can stand up, so what are we debating here? Player safety should be at the foremost. Get her off, get the next back on. But at the moment, it doesn't look like that's happening.
Yeah, we have to agree here in commentary. We are really surprised that Abby Dow is staying on the field of play. She's not even going off for an HIA.
It's not acceptable. Like, quite frankly, it is not acceptable, and this should not be happening at this elite level or any level of rugby, and I actually think they need to be looked at into that, because that's not okay.
England 31, New Zealand 29. It's 14 against 14. There's been a red card for England, but New Zealand, they're reduced to 14 from a yellow card to Kennedy Simon. So it's level pegging for at least the next 10 minutes, and England have the ball. They're inside of the Black Ferns half, playing between the 10 and the 22, about 10 metres out from the far side. Ball is on the floor, England have it, and they're being told to use it. McDonald is desperately trying to dig it out, and eventually she finds safe passage through Poppy Cleal. There's a New Zealand player lying on the wrong side who quickly shifts back to her feet. And here comes Zoe Harrison. She's been pushed backwards, lost a little bit of ground. England not going over the gain line, and a lot of New Zealand players arriving. Big bodies. Kath O'Donnell perhaps wasn't expecting to play as much of this final as she is. A little bit of a snipe round the corner by Claudia McDonald. She's refusing to be tackled. That's what she can do. Alex Matthews safely over the top. Poppy Cleal arriving to play scrum. She knew to take her time, and she did. England look like they've lost the ball forwards. Referee's going to give a penalty to the Black Ferns, and what a place to get it inside of their own half between the 10 and the 22. 66 minutes on the clock. And the Black Ferns, they've run it from here before, so England need to be alive to that.
They do need to be really aware, because Cox said that's one thing she does do. She does like to tack quickly. She does like to catch off guard, and especially trying to move it wide. Maybe they're now gone more sensibly, because it's now even Peggins is 14 on 14.
Well, there's a little bit of treatment going on to Sarah Byrne right now. I think it's cramp. They need the pickle juice. Get that back on the field.
Look at this vinegar shots.
Sarah Byrne, she was the real, what we call the bolter of the last World Cup in 2017. There was a late injury for England, and it meant that Sarah Byrne got her opportunity. She was just a youngster at 20 years old then. She's now 25. Remember, the last World Cup, it was 5 years ago now. Abby Dow has now gone off the field, and she is now going down the tunnel for her HIA. Tatiana Hurd is on, and whatever happens at the end of this World Cup final, whoever wins, that is going to have to be discussed.
Oh, completely. You get a shot to the head at that much force. She's lying on the floor. She looks dazed when she gets up. It's all classic, and I know that I'm probably more sensitive to it because it ended my career at age 28, and I wanted to play for another 4 or 5 years. So, got to look after the players. A player is never going to bring themselves off. It's up to the responsibility of the medics to pull them off, an independent medic if needed, but has to.
The voice of Kat Merchant, 2014 Rugby World Cup winner, with England here with us on 5 Live. 13 minutes now to go in the World Cup final. England 31, New Zealand 29. It's New Zealand with the line out and the driving maul on the halfway line, near side of the field, as the whole of Eden Park once again encourages, shouts, wills their team to go forward, and England have got their hands on the ball. Coxedge then with the quick tap. There's no one at home. Someone's going to have to go back and gather. It's a bouncing rugby ball and go anywhere. It's Claudia McDonald. Gives it to Kildunn. Nice little shuffle of the footwork from Kildunn. Who's got the energy? They are all exhausted now out there. If someone's got the energy, this could be a special moment. Sadia Kabea goes forward over the gain line like she has done all season at club level and now is doing for her country. Zoe Harrison with the kick through. Gathered at the back by Dement. She manages to find Holmes on the halfway line. They come towards this near side, but not a lot of space. Huge tackle coming in by Kildunn. And the Black Ferns have the ball just inside of the England half. Crystal Murray. She's a prop, but be careful. She can be dangerous. She's got a boot on her as well. She's one of those very rare breeds. A goal-kicking, drop-kicking prop. Still Black Ferns ball, halfway line. Push it towards the far side. Confusion there for the Black Ferns. Stacey Flula, she's lost about 10 metres. Now it's Renee Holmes. In England, they're just trying to make sure they hold their defensive line as it's kicked through. It's going to go out of play on the far side. It's not a 50-22. It's going to be an England line-out inside of their own half between the halfway and the 10 metre.
England will be more than happy with the result of that. They had really good line speed in their defence. They were shutting them down. As you mentioned, Flula's going backwards. They forced the kick over, but actually this is good still territory for England. They've got the possession, they've got an amazing line out, and they just need to play this game down now. So we're down to less than 12 minutes on the clock. They are ahead, they have to stay that way, but in order to do that, it's territory. Be playing in the right areas, get that ball out.
Well, the ball comes down for England. It looked like it bounced off the floor. Referee happy it went backwards. Comes back to Cleal. Poppy Cleal, a multiple Premier 15s champion with her club side Saracens. Don't forget the Premier 15 season. It is about to get back underway. You can follow one game every week on the BBC Sport website or the iPlayers. The ball goes straight out of play on this near side. Now, they are just going to go back and say that that was touched in air. So it is still going to be, it was touched by a Black Ferns player. I mean, sometimes we talk about the Black Ferns getting the rub of the green. Oh my God, that was a get out of jail there for England.
Absolutely, because I thought that was straight out from outside the 22. So I was like, oh no, they're going to have to be pulled back. But now actually, yeah, England now are even in an even better position in New Zealand's half now to be able to attack and have this line out. But referee is calling them in, but they've noticed there is a player down on the far side.
Well, here's a crazy thought for you. Of all the changes that England have made in this World Cup final, they've not changed any of their front row. It's still the original 3 still on. They've not used Lark Davis, Maud Muir or Shauna Brown yet.
That's a big ask of the front row, isn't it? You normally ask your front row, you give them time. You ask them for 60 minutes, you bring them off. But, New Zealand player didn't touch it. They just showed a replay there. That was straight out.
But I tell you what, they know their rugby here at Eden Park. They know it. And because of how long England have taken with the injury, they've had the time to go for the replay. The decision has been reversed. It'll be a New Zealand line out from where it went straight out.
Oh, gutted. I was hoping that only we saw that. It wasn't getting fed in,
only
to
the
be
world
honest.
watching.
Yes, yeah, I was like, don't notice that. So it moves back now. So obviously New Zealand then have it, but it's only 20 metres down the pitch. But big ask at the front row. That's a really valid point because they've been scrummaging well. They've been doing a lot of set piece. They've been doing a lot of carrying. Credit to them, but they won't want to come off this pitch. They'd rather crawl off.
England 31, New Zealand 29. New Zealand win their own line out. They peel off the back. They come forward through Ruby Tui, who manages to evade the first tackle. They're trying to choke tackle a lot at the moment, England. Down on the ground, they need to shift towards the far side. New Zealand not really opting to use the width of the field like we thought they would in this final as they come back towards the near side. Dement with the dummy. She manages to pop the ball back to Murray. Huge tackle coming in there. Was the ball lost forward? No, referee says play on. Big tackle coming in this time. It's Nan Wu, one of the replacements, who rolls it forward. I have to say the Black Ferns, they look a little bit clueless at the moment. They've also got Crystal Murray, who's down again on the floor. So they're effectively playing with 13 women, and they are just running into this massive wall of white shirts once again. 7 phases they've worked through, pushing towards the far side. They decide to kick it through because they've run out of options. It's going to be gathered by Flula. Picked up ball, scored in the corner. What a try! What a try in the World Cup final to give them the lead again. Touchdown by Letty Ayinga in the corner. Once again, New Zealand in the lead. 9 minutes to go. New Zealand 34, England 31.
They knew there was no way through. There was no way through. England defence was so solid up onto him. They then had to put it through. It was a lovely grubber. Really nicely timed through. There's no way England players are going to turn to get back. It's a lovely pick up from Flula. But not only that, the offload as she's getting tackled, she managed to lift it up on the floor to then to catch and go over. A great try. I was on my knees on the floor at that point. I was barely able to watch it, but yeah, incredible try to New Zealand. But that is a hell of a blow for England.
Well, Stacey Flula, she's still down on the ground, receiving a little bit of treatment at the moment for the Black Ferns. And I can tell you, England, they are in a very tight huddle underneath the post at the moment. And Emily Scarrett is currently giving chapter and verse to them about what she wants to see in the next 8.5 minutes. So England, they're currently trailing by 3 in the Rugby World Cup final. There's still a conversion to come. They won't take that conversion until they've decided what to do with Stacey Flula. The clock has been stopped, so anyone who might be listening to this, it doesn't matter if you're a New Zealand fan or an England fan, you don't need to worry about that. Stacey Flula is now just testing her leg, and Ellie Kildan's gone in to shake her hand.
I think we're good to go.
A nice touch there, and I'm just seeing if it looks like Stacey Flula is going off the field, and they do have Hazel Tubic that they haven't brought off the bench yet, so I'm assuming she will come in and slot in somewhere into that backfield as we now wait for Renee Holmes. And the cheer you can hear going up at the moment, that's for Stacey Flula. She is a popular woman in these parts.
She's an incredible athlete, an incredible player, and to have this Eden Park, and she's had a great impact on the game, arguably up there for player of the match if New Zealand were to go and to win it. But I think I want to see those England faces, and I don't want them looking scared. A few of them are starting to look scared now, some of the younger players who maybe haven't experienced that loss, whereas Emily Scarrett for me is showing all the right stuff. You can see she's nodding, she's still got her head up. There's belief they can still do this, and they absolutely can still do this. They've got to step up and do it now.
Renee Holmes with the conversion. This would give New Zealand a 5-point lead. It would force England to knowing that they would have to score a try to get back into this game. Renee Holmes, she shanked that one to the left-hand side of the post. And I have to say, Renee Holmes, she's missed quite a few kicks at goal today. Scarrett's missed a couple, but that could be a big point. Now, here comes on the cavalry. A full change of front row. Lark Davis, Maud Muir, Shauna Brown on. Vicky Cornborough, Amy Cockayne, Sarah Byrne off. And I can tell you that Davis, Muir and Brown are expected to run and run.
Absolutely. Coming on, you've got one job. You've got 7 minutes to go out and win a World Cup final.
Knocked on ball there by the Black Ferns. Referee says no, it went backwards.
Oh, she's not seen it.
So the Black Ferns still have it inside of their own 22. Almost a breakaway through Dement. Bremner now. Remember, it's 14 against 14. New Zealand still down. They will have a player to come back on as Hazel Tubic does the most curious kick I've seen on a rugby field in a while. Kicks it out towards the far side. I mean, she got the bounce of the ball inside of play, and but she's given England a line out just inside of the New Zealand half.
They have had success by putting it over and in weird places as well. But when you know how good the England line out is, if you're risking kicking out and giving them possession, but yeah, a bit of a crazy one, I think.
I'll tell you what's even more curious is it looks like Abby Dow might be about to come back on the field as the England line-out falters at just the wrong moment. So New Zealand back on the ball between their own 10 and the 22. Going up the guts of the park once again. Bodies just lying all over the floor. Penalty advantage also to the Black Ferns. Crystal Murray pushing out towards the far side. If they score again now as they approach the halfway line, it'll be virtually impossible for England to get back into this. They have to defend for their lives. Bremner, she manages to get the ball away, given in the end to Connor. Back down the Black Ferns line, a hand on it by an England player. The ball bounces again. Kildun gathers, juggles with it. Ruby Tui comes in to bring her down to the ground. Still England ball. McDonald goes in and gathers. She's running away on her own. McDonald didn't realise there was no one there. She's going to place that backwards. They called it collision craft whenever they practice. The arm is now out the way of England. The penalty has been reversed, the decision, and they now have the ball on the halfway. Here comes Hurd, finds Scarrett. They're pushing out towards the far side. It's Shauna Brown. Great work there by the Harlequins prop, placing the ball backwards. England going forward at the right end of the field. Scarrett pops off the ball, taken by Alex Matthews. Support arrives. There's New Zealand players who look tired. A big England attack. What difference could that make? Poppy Cleo going forward. It must be like tackling a garden shed, taking her down. Splinters, pain everywhere, but penalty for New Zealand. Cleo holding on the floor. What a defensive shift by the Black Ferns, and they are now back to 15. They lead by 3 points in the Women's Rugby World Cup final. New Zealand 34, England 31. We have a massive 4 minutes to play.
Oh, I feel sick. I'm not going to lie, I absolutely feel sick. This is so stressful. Why does anyone do this job? These women are putting on an amazing display of rugby, both sides, but that penalty there is a huge one, because as soon as these minutes start ticking down, the opportunities lessen. And they've gone for a quick one.
They've decided not to kick it out of play. Huge decision there by New Zealand. Crystal Murray places it back. They're deciding to play it out of their own half. I mean, if New Zealand win this World Cup, they have done it their own way. They are at times just completely unique. It's a penalty to England. In from, she's ripped it, is what she's saying. And England have the biggest decision of their lives. Zoe Harrison has the ball. She needs to thump this down the park and out of play as far as her leg will allow.
I think they were looking to Skaz there, have you got this? And that's a ridiculous kick. It's from the halfway line, right on the sideline. When you're a few minutes away, like, absolutely go for the line out. And I'm glad that they have gone for that.
Okay, England line out just outside of the Black Ferns 22. Katie Daly-McLean, your thoughts?
Fascinating game. I mean, I'm like cat, I'm under the desk here. But what is really interesting, once England get into multi-phase, once they've kept the ball for quite a few phases, New Zealand are getting tighter and tighter, but the space is on the edge, and that's where England, for me, you've got to be really, really brave and keep stretching New Zealand.
England have won the line out, they've won the penalty as well. They've got a free hit here, they can try and do something. Harrison takes it forward. Still England ball. They trail by 3 here in the World Cup final. What would a try mean now? Sadi Kabir takes it straight into contact. I felt that one here in commentary. I'm about 60 metres away. Still England drive forward. Is this their destiny? With 2 minutes and 15 seconds on the clock. You can hear the whole of Eden Park screaming for the Black Ferns. They're going to come back for the penalty. Where was the penalty. Such a big decision here for England. There's 2 minutes to go. This is on the edge of Emily Scarrett's range.
7.
Scaz can get that. Scaz can get it. But what's important is when we look at Joanne, we've got to see actually in this moment, under this pressure, have you got it or not? If you say no, go for the line out. But this is just to get it obviously to draw. And they'd have to obviously do the extra time with the player down. So they've gone for the line out.
England did not come to New Zealand in this World Cup for a draw. They came to win. And what a moment this is going to be. New Zealand 34, England 31. 1.5 minutes to go. England have the line out 5 metres from the New Zealand line. This is about to be the line out of England's lives. Lark Davis is going to throw it in. The whole of New Zealand, the whole of the world is watching. They go short up the front. Abby Ward has it. They're driving forward. It's gone down to ground. The penalty advantage is England's. They'll have another shot at the very least. They're still driving. They are not interested at all in that penalty. Sadia Kabeya has it now. It's another penalty advantage. Poppy Cleal now. They need to be sensible, England. The clock is nearly over. They drive round the corner. Alex Matthews-Waite, she goes on her own. 1 metre to go. Holly Davidson says no, she's going to bring it back. It's still an England penalty. I can tell you, everyone at Eden Park right now has their hands on their heads, or they are covering their hands with their eyes. They can't watch.
19 in the air.
We talk about pressure on the kicker when it comes to penalties, but the pressure now on everybody on this kick to make touch in the right place, on Lark Davies to throw it straight, for Ward or whoever's going up to receive it, and then what they do off the back of it. But this is it. This is it, girls.
The hooter is gone. Time is up. This is the last play. Lark Davis gets it in. It's been lost to the Black Ferns. They have the ball. They just need to get it off the field. If New Zealand get this off the field, it's been knocked on by England. That's it. It's over. New Zealand win the World Cup against all the odds. And with it, they have won the hearts of this rugby-loving nation. England gave it everything, but they just cannot find a way past the magic that is the Black Ferns. England are distraught. They cannot believe what has just happened. They had the moment to win it. They had the line-outs. They couldn't get past the black wall. The whole of Eden Park is ecstatic. Final score in the World Cup final. New Zealand 34, England 31. Heartbreak again for England. Cat Merchant.
So much heartbreak, and it's the cruelest thing about sport. And it's, you know, you look at the camera and one side's elated, the other side's absolutely broken, and it is truly a horrid feeling. And you know, I've been there, and there's fireworks going off, and you just can't quite take it in. And fair play to New Zealand, they turned up. England, what a performance. They put in such a performance with 14 players, and you know, they can be proud of their efforts, but really the psychology in New Zealand just know how to win finals, and it's how to get that from this England side.
Well, Ruby Tui, she's out there in the middle of the park, she's pumping her chest, she's going to speak to Ellie Kildan and give her condolences, but I can tell you, England, they have given everything since they lost that World Cup in 2017. They've completely reformed their league. They were the first nation in the world to offer fully professional contracts to their women. New Zealand realised that it could be too little too late. They have thrown the kitchen sink at this team since they got professional contracts earlier this year. They gave them the best coach they could find in Wayne Smith, who'd already led the All Blacks to 2 World Cups, and now he's just led the Black Ferns to exactly the same title. What a moment. And I have to say, women's rugby in New Zealand is now transformed forever. Final score in the World Cup final, Ellie. New Zealand 34, England 31.
Oh, I can only imagine what that feeling must be like in Auckland for you. Katie Daly-McLean as well, watching in our studio in London. I just had that feeling, a line out 5 yards out from the line. Katie, you must have felt the same thing. This is the moment. This is the moment for a try, and then to lose the ball at that point. Absolutely heartbreaking.
I've got no words for you. Like you say, absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, massive credit to New Zealand and the way they won it. But yeah, I mean, England have relied on it so much. You know, it's been so dominant. It was so dominant in that game, and that was just the cruelty of sport, isn't it? You saw it in abundance there, and Kat Merchant touched on it. One side victorious, and that there'll always be a loser. But I mean, what a game! What a game for women's rugby. I'm going to take the positives from it. You know, the game itself, the crowd, the occasion was absolutely phenomenal, but absolute heartbreaking for England. Absolute heartbreaking.
Do you know, I was sitting there, Kat, and I was thinking to myself, greatest Rugby World Cup final of all time, men or women?
Yeah. Absolutely, it has to be. I burst out crying at the final whistle, Sarah can confirm. But yeah, what a game. I think everybody here has emotionally got probably trauma. But yeah, incredible. Both teams came out fighting, and, you know, New Zealand stood up when they needed to.
And there were so many key moments, weren't there, Sarah? You can look back to that red card for Lydia Thompson after just 18 minutes. So for England to be in a position to win it, with, you know, the clock ticked into 80, to be in that position, having played with 14 on the field for 3/4 of the game, you've got to give them unbelievable credit for that.
Yeah, you really do. England were 14-0 up in this World Cup final. And I have to say, Kat and I have talked so much throughout this tournament about we wanted to see more red cards. For any England fans who've listened to us this morning, that's perhaps the one red card that they didn't want to see. But yeah, I have to say, as much as England will be distraught in this moment, I genuinely do not think there is anything else they could have done to try and win this. I mean, ultimately, it comes down to a line out eventually that didn't quite function for them. So many have over the last 5 years. Their set piece has been incredible, but when you are playing for a majority of match with just 14 women on the field, you know, it is just perhaps a task too far. When it's a World Cup final, it means so much to so many. And yes, there's a distraught England team out there, but I have to say, seeing Eden Park like this now, you know, we're talking about the rise of women's sport. It has just risen in New Zealand.
It reminds me a little bit of when we talk in women's cricket terms, the idea of India winning a major final for the Indian women's cricket team. It's the same kind of power, isn't it, really, in a nation which is mad about sport, to have that for the Black Ferns and the respect as well. I know, and Sarah, you've talked a lot about this, the feeling in women's rugby that the Black Ferns have not had the respect from the New Zealand establishment, the New Zealand rugby establishment, that they've deserved.
No, they really haven't. They've been one of the most underfunded sides and yet have kept turning up to winning World Cups. New Zealand rugby have completely taken them for granted for years, and it was the moment where they realised they were hosting a Women's World Cup and they could potentially lose that they had to do something. They were ultimately embarrassed into action. The hope is that despite that being the reason that they finally invested and funded their women, is that they keep doing it. Because I can tell you now, the Black Ferns as a brand are one of the most exciting in women's sport across the whole globe. They've got superstars in that side, the likes of Portia Woodman and Ruby Tui, who are household names in this country. You just hope it continues.
Katie and Kat, I mean, we're doing a great job of seeing the bigger picture here, aren't we? And looking at this in global terms. But I mean, this is absolutely gutting for those players. They're just seeing shots at the moment of the tears of Simon Middleton hugging his players and trying to console them, and Sarah Hunter just doing an interview now. But I mean, there were some big calls, weren't there? There were some big moments in this game. Katie, was it the right call for Sarah to come off at half-time?
I mean, this is the beauty of hindsight, isn't it? That line out, like Sarah said, goes to hand, and we're having a different conversation. For me, I thought taking both Sarah Hunter and Molly Packer off was big, but we know Poppy Cleal, obviously very experienced, Sadia Kabea has been on form. I think all those calls, if it works out, they're brilliant calls, and if they're not, they get scrutinised to death, don't they? But I think New Zealand just New Zealand won that game. I don't think England lost it. I think New Zealand won it.
What do you think, Kat? Was that the right call for you?
I agree with Katie. Actually, England didn't throw that away at the beginning of the tournament. I think everybody said it was England's to lose, but actually that was assuming it was against the New Zealand that was a year ago. Whereas actually faced with that and the fact that there was 14 down for the whole time, you can't fault the effort from those girls, and it's really difficult because there will have to be a lot of look into why and what else could there have been, and there'll be debrief. But right now my heart just goes to those players because they gave everything on that pitch,
and the physical effort was unbelievable, as we've already said, to play with 14 players on the field for 3/4 of the game, Katie. But I mean, do you remember what you said in the wake of defeat in 2017?
No, surprisingly I don't. It is such a hard moment, Ellie. You get caught in your own personal emotion, the team emotion, the fact that you will feel like you've let everybody down, that you've then got to be aware of the opposition, and someone like Sarah is a phenomenal leader, phenomenal person, so she will manage herself very well. But like Kat's touched on there, it is such a hard position to be in, because the girls will know the investment and everything they've had, the support of their friends and family that their nation have got behind them, and that just moment of despair where, like I say, you feel like you've let everybody down. It is such a hard thing to stomach.
It's tough, isn't it, though? Because I mean, 30 games. Yeah. 30 games undefeated. You can never take that away from them.
You can't, but it just comes back. I think Sarah touched it right at the beginning. New Zealand have won all 5, now 6 games that they've played England in a World Cup. And for me, it is the story of us as a nation. We beat them a year out. We did it in 2016, then we got beaten in the World Cup final. We did it in 2009. We got beaten in 2010, excuse my order. And it's come back and bit us again. And we beat them last year in a very, very comprehensive way. And New Zealand just have a way of pulling out these amazing World Cup final performances.
So where are we in terms of the World Cup cycle now, Sarah? I mean, presumably it's 3 years, is it, till the next Women's World Cup final?
Yeah, that's right. This World Cup is actually...